whatever. But
sorry.
That's fine. I don't need it. I remember what I said, for the most part.
Whoa.
You're recording audio too for the SoundCloud thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. That was weird. Why did that go so fast?
That's what she said.
Wow. Okay, I was watching Star Wars, A New Hope, the first ever one. The
Second
one
best. Second best.
Of the...
Return of the Jedi
Of
was the
the...
best one.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say, are you counting the prequel
No, I thought Attack of the Clones was actually the best one.
I don't know. I like, what's
Yeah, I
his
bet
face?
you like Jar Jar Binks, too.
No, the bad guy. Why am I blanking on his name? Famous actor. Old guy.
Christopher... No.
It's Christopher something.
Walken?
No. Christopher Plummer was,
It's close.
sang along with Mary Poppins and the Sound of Music.
This is real life, folks. Real life.
Why am I blanking on that guy's name?
Count Dooku?
Count Dooku, the old guy. He's
God.
famous.
I don't know.
Famous British actor. Okay,
Saruman?
whatever.
All right, anyway,
Saruman,
so,
yeah. I was making a point though. I watched the first Star Wars, and there are so many sexual innuendos. It's ridiculous. When they're trying to shoot down the Death Star, one of the things says, or one of the pilots, that like just goes to a frame of him. He says, "Negative, it didn't go in." And I was sitting there. I paused because I was laughing so hard. I was like, "Oh my god!"
and that's why you subscribe to the
Suggested
YouTube
J.J.
channel.
Abrams, the next one.
No? So you
Well,
can only get it here?
Sure he'll put some lens flares in there.
You can only get it here?
Okay, am I the only one who thinks the lens flares are kind of cool?
I don't know what you're talking
They're
about.
cool, but like people just complain that he uses too much of them.
There is too much. Did you see both the Star Trek movies?
Yeah.
So you know how like
lens flare
when they're doing like
Oh,
shots
I
of
just don't know the
space,
terminology.
and like all of a sudden the screen gets really bright for a second and then goes back.
Oh, that's...
It's a real subtle thing, but
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams gets criticized because he does it too much.
He
I
does it
guess.
constantly.
Yeah, I like them. I think they're
Well,
cool.
unlike you guys, I go outside every once in a while, so I don't...
Outside.
Shut the fuck
Overrated.
up. I go outside once in a while. Okay, it was a gorgeous day
Yeah,
out
no,
Hey, what's
that's pretty
going
much it.
on?
there. Did you just press record?
We are
What
in
doing?
the basement. And we apologize to all our numerous fans out there. I think we're up to 10, maybe 11 at this point.
You know what? I think we've hit the magic number of 15.
Really? Are we at 15?
I think we got there.
All right, we're almost legal to buy what do you think? A Sweet 16? I don't know. Anyway, my
Greg can be the 16th. We can do our Sweet 16th today.
there we go.
I haven't decided
Greg
if I'm a fan yet.
Greg is our Sweet 16. Hey, this is your third visit to the basement.
This is true.
So if anything,
It's the only one-
you're a de facto
Yes.
fan.
This is true.
So you could be our Sweet 16
Alrighty.
on our 21st episode. Hey, see how all the numbers
This is our
work?
21st episode?
I think it's our 21st episode.
Nice.
'Cause
We're
I'm
doing pretty well.
Because I'm pretty sure the NBA
Nice wordplay.
preview
That was at 20.
That was episode 20.
Because I uploaded it for, I
And-
think it took
and we
27 hours
We
to
made
do that.
sure that Greg Cotta felt special that he was our guest for the 20th episode.
We did.
Anyway, sorry. Once again, if you've listened to the show, you know that the first minute or so,
It's the most fun part of the show.
It is. We kind of
Because we're just chilling.
get our feet wet a little bit, kind of get stable ground.
We let Greg Wong make
Anyway,
fun of us,
you know,
and we spend the next hour and a half making fun of him.
Greg
I like
Wong
that
is
I don't
here.
have to host. I can just
You can
sit
just
back
chill.
and...
That's
So-
what I normally say. Just chill.
Anyway, today we're going to talk about. I was going to say, obviously today's not Monday. It is a Wednesday.
It is.
Wednesday is our alternate day to do the podcast. He said Monday or Wednesday, pretty much. So you were in the basement with Sean and the Heckler. Sean's over here to my left if you're watching in podcast or at YouTube land.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Wong over to my right shoulder, waving the hand over there. He's wearing the Still Alive shirt over here. I got a little softball jersey for my fraternity, with my little my
His is
fraternity
better.
name on there.
His shirt's better
Diesel,
than mine.
Go Sammys.
Go Sammys. Anyway, we're gonna talk NBA playoffs.
Greg's got the Nike swoosh.
I'm gonna
Go
probably go a little bit further on my rant that I had on Tuesday about Mark
I'm ready.
Jackson,
I've got opinions, but...
and we're gonna probably talk a little bit about the NFL draft
A little bit.
and maybe some baseball if we have time. and some hockey.
Which is taking place as we're filming this. I'm missing the Ranger
Exactly,
game.
and normally I
Dedication
have
homes.
the ESPN homepage up there, but I feel like
Oh, I don't want it.
I
don't even
feel
want
like-
to know what's
I feel like that's
happening.
gonna not be any issue today.
Yeah. As we're filming this, the Rangers.
Anyway,
are
we
down.
might as well avert your eyes. I'm gonna bring up the NBA. Avert your eyes, Sean, so that you don't see any.
Oh, I'm not
recording it.
recording it. I'm not.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. If
I
I
thought you were going to
get home
naked
to
or
watch
something.
it, then
That's
I'll
why
find
you
out.
wanted to move.
Oh man,
Avert
Greg.
your eyes. I'm toweling up.
Greg.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
So anyway, in the playoffs right now, The Wizards, 11 minutes in the third, they're winning 49-46 against the fraud Pacers.
Can you bring up Roy Hibbert's stat line for this one?
Oh wait, is it zeros?
No, he had 17 points at halftime.
Whoa.
Oh, whoa!
I watched the first half of this game. They were
that-
like going to Roy Hibbert.
Does that? You know what's funny about that?
What?
Before the game started on ESPN, they were saying that the Indiana Pacers right now, their mentality is
Get Roy Hibbert.
get Roy Hibbert the ball,
Yeah.
make him feel as comfortable as he can. They basically released Andrew Bynum to make
They
him
got
more
rid of him.
comfortable.
They got rid of Andrew Bynum.
I mean,
Bynum
he
wasn't doing
I know,
anything.
but
No, he played 2 games.
But they got rid of him because Roy Hibbert needs the security of knowing that he's going to get all the big man minutes.
Or they did it as a PR stunt to
Yes.
say, "Hey, we're doing everything we can to make
Exactly,
Roy Hibbert happy."
exactly.
I'm pretty sure Bynum
And you know,
he was a negative.
I
He wasn't on the court, and if you only have him for your off the court,
yeah,
that's
for
probably
sure.
He's not a great guy to have. Off
I mean,
the
let's
court.
just say, the Wizards right now winning by 5.
Yes.
Washington leads 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say, even though the Pacers got back by the Hawks,
Mm-hmm.
if they lose to the Wizards in, say, 5 games or even 6 games,
Yeah.
are they the biggest fraud at number 1 ever in the NBA?
No, because they didn't lose the first round.
Okay.
Now, are they one of the biggest frauds? Absolutely, but
Okay.
you can't look at them as the biggest frauds. Look, as bad as the Atlanta Hawks were, which they were really, really bad.
Yeah.
They were a sub 500 playoff
And
team.
they showed you how bad they were. They were up 3-1. They should have.
If
2-1.
Oh, was that 2-1?
Or
Okay.
3-2 too.
three.
But they had a
They had a lead.
chance
They
to
had a
clinch
5-point lead in a clincher
in Game 6,
Yeah.
and they had a lead in Game 7 for a little bit.
5-point lead with 5 minutes to go.
The way I look at it is Indiana lucked out playing Atlanta because I think if Atlanta were to have had the 2 spot or if Charlotte had
I was
fallen
gonna
to the
say,
8 spot,
if-
I think
Charlotte
Charlotte
could have
beat
beat them.
Indiana with a healthy Al Jefferson. I think they could have done it.
Charlotte might have run him out of the playoffs.
Kemba
like
Walker,
four or
would
five.
have made George Hill look like a high school point guard, which is what John Wall's currently doing to him right now. But
John Wall.
As bad as Indiana has looked, all they need is a couple of things to just start going right, and they'll
Roy
look like the
Hibbert to
old
be
Indiana
in
Pacers.
the stat
Yeah,
sheet a
when
little
you
bit.
say they're a fraud, that's not that they shouldn't. They deserved
No.
it because they
They
were
deserved
good
it.
for 3/4 of the
They
year.
That's
deserve
the
to
thing.
be in the playoffs. And
That's the
they
thing.
do deserve to be, I guess, a top 2 seed. But I feel like they're
Right
a
now,
fraud
they're a
with number
fraud.
1.
Yeah.
No, the last month of the season they kind of backed their way into it a little bit.
But they had a stretch of about a month and a half.
Or
where
they were the best team.
They were the
NBA.
best team in basketball,
Yeah, absolutely.
and they were so good that they had people thinking, okay, Miami doesn't even have a chance right now. Indiana's
Yeah.
going to just stifle them on defense. And that's one of the things that's gone wrong for Indiana. Look, you can look at the offense all you want. Hibbert's not scoring. Stevenson's dribbling the air out of the ball.
Evan Turner.
Evan Turner being on the court.
Evan Turner.
the-
Remember when that
it's the
trade happened?
defense.
I thought it was like, oh, whoa,
We
there's
both
another.
thought
Yeah,
that.
we thought
We
another,
both thought-
another score off the bench.
Did you think Evan Turner was going to be a big
positive
you didn't-
influence?
See, I saw too much of him in Philadelphia to think, okay, he can come in and help.
5-point score. Or
I thought
whatever
he
it
was.
so.
I thought he was still the Evan Turner from college.
Me
when
too.
he got traded,
Me too.
basically.
And he was the number 2 pick. But what I was saying is, Indiana, as bad as they've looked offensively, it's the defense that's really making people think, okay, they're a fraud because they're giving up easy buckets. It's not just that people are outscoring them; it's the way teams are scoring. Nene had a field day in Game 1. He was getting anywhere he wanted. Marcin Gortat made Roy Hibbert look like a 6'2" center, not a 7'2" center, and Hibbert's a different story. But the Pacers won that many games in the regular season because of their defense. They weren't weren't going out and saying we're going to outscore you guys tonight. We're going to go.
Whenever we
wall.
did talk basketball
Yeah.
here in the basement, I would always bring up, they do lead the league in points against, so and then
And
you know,
all those
you
stats are kind of rough.
And you did say. That is true, but if they do go through stretches of very scary offensive possessions,
Bad offensive possession. Look, you can do that as long as your defense is reliable.
or,
That's why they almost lost the Hawks.
or if you're facing the Hawks, in
Or if
7
you're facing
games.
the
So I
Hawks.
think the bigger issue was the offense in the playoffs, at least. In the Hawks series, it was,
That's the bigger issue. But what I'm saying is,
sure,
if
their defense was
if
worse.
you can't rely
Yeah.
on your defense,
That's
then
true.
when your offense is like that sketchy, then you're really going to
That's
have
true.
problems.
That's
And
true.
that's what's come down to for Indiana. Look, I still think they have a chance to make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
All they need is Hibbert to just stand in the middle and protect the rim,
If-
which he hasn't done.
If
Grab some
Washington
rebounds.
wins tonight,
Then I
and
think,
goes up
Yeah.
2-0,
It's
and they
a-
head towards Washington,
It would be,
yeah,
do you think the Pacers can do it again?
yes, because I can't.
Washington's better than the Hawks, though.
Oh,
By
they're
leaps and bounds better than the
DK.
Hawks.
The Wizards are in a different league than the
Yeah.
Atlanta Hawks. I mean,
So, I
the
mean-
Hawks shouldn't have even been in the playoffs. We'll start with that. But I think if the Wizards win tonight, which I think they will, because I think John Wall's just going to say in the fourth quarter, look, I want to go off. I think the Pacers can still do it because Washington's vulnerable at home. They're not the best home team. They're a very good road team, which is an enigma because arguably their two best players are playoff rookies. I mean, John Wall and Brad Beal haven't seen this type of action before. I think Indiana would still have a shot if they lost tonight. It would be a tremendous uphill battle, but I think they'd still have a shot. But we did the playoff preview with Greg Cotta before the playoffs started, and we all had Indiana going very far.
I had them in my finals.
You had them in the finals. I had the East Conference Finals, and that's what's tough. That's like why it's tough of picking a bracket in March. You know, if one of your teams goes out in the first or second round, it's like your bracket's screwed. So I always kind of like the round by round thing, and I kind of did that. I tweeted something yesterday. I think Washington's going to win the series in 5. And before the playoffs, we all had Indiana at least threatening Miami. You had Indiana in the finals. Yeah. I know you had Indiana going pretty far. So I think round by round is more important.
I want to give credit to where credit is due. Sean Steimel was on the Wizards bandwagon very early in the season.
He was in
Sean a lot. So
he was in there during the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this: I saw a lot of good things, but before the playoffs, I was kind of down on Washington, and I thought Washington and Chicago would be a lot closer. And the one reason was because I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't think Nene was healthy. I didn't think Nene was going to play this playoffs. He had been injured for most of the year with that leg injury that I think he had sat out almost 2.5 months.
He re-injured it today.
And he hurt. Did you see the?
I didn't see the.
It was ugly. It was not. His knee buckled. But I didn't think Nene was going to play, so I was kind of iffy on picking Washington. I still picked them. I think I picked them to win in like 7 games. But with Nene on the floor, when I looked at their team preseason, Gortat and Nene, that's a formidable duo. They didn't have Drew Gooden at the time, but Drew Gooden's come in and played some good minutes. Trevor Ariza, I have not given up on Trevor Ariza.
I can't believe that Drew Gooden has found his career. I mean, I can believe
that's the way he plays.
I can believe it, but it's like
he was never explosive or anything. He was just a solid NBA player. Yeah. I've never given up on Ariza. Me and you are Laker fans.
Yeah,
I saw enough of Ariza to know that guy's a gamer.
I feel like Ariza could still do the Lakers some good if they can afford him.
I still think he could too. But the main cog was John Wall, and that's where my Wizards love that you're giving me credit for. I just thought John Wall was going to make the leap this year, and any way you can argue it, he did. He made the leap into an all-star player. He's going to be the franchise guy there for a while, and he can carry the offense. He's learned how to get guys open shots, which is I think the best part about John Wall. It's not his explosive talent and shooting abilities. It's the fact that he can get into the paint and create for a guy like Gortat, create for a guy like Brad Beal with open shots.
That's so dangerous.
John Wall made the leap, so thank you for saying that. But I got pretty lucky with the because remember we talked about this before. Even after we did that, I picked my first coach fired of the NBA this year. Yeah, and I said it was going to be Randy Whitman.
Yeah.
Because I thought the Wizards were good, and I thought they were going to make a jump, but I didn't think Randy Whitman was the guy to take it.
He told me that they were going to make the jump after coach
got
fired.
Fired Whitman.
Because they were going to motivate and go on the run.
And somehow Whitman is coaching them into the second round of the playoffs.
So we're going to stay in the East here. Yeah. But to transition that, I heard a rumor about a certain player on the Heat. Chris Bosh has a chance to opt out, I think, this year or next year.
All 3 of them have chances to opt out. D-Wade, LeBron, and
Bosh.
But,
I mean, specifically Chris Bosh, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard that Dallas might be going after him, but Dallas denies it.
He's a Texan.
He is. But the other rumor that I heard, that I know that, that's why I'm bringing this up, is there's a team out in the West Coast, and apparently that team out in the West Coast and Chris Bosh have a mutual interest in possibly joining together and having his career flourish there. And that team from the West Coast is the Los Angeles Lakers. What do you think about that?
Only if they can keep Powell. Because I think Powell and Bosh could work together.
Because they couldn't.
Bosh is much more outside now.
Because if they do that, I agree. They need to keep Powell.
Powell needs to be on the low. Whichever team Powell plays for next season,
low block.
He needs to be a center. He no longer can be a power
because if they do sign Chris Bosh, let's say, they can no longer have enough money to sign a person like say
assuming they keep Powell and
they keep Love
the salary cap for next season
or maybe even Rondo I heard was in the horizon for the Lakers maybe
basically any one of the free agents on the books if they went and got Bosh then that would be
but to stay on the Bosh train
he
might also opt in and wait 2 years and just be a part of that free agent class of 15 or
I
something.
think a lot of that, all three of their decisions have to do with whether or not they're going to win the title.
Yeah,
this year.
I would agree with him. Like I love that thought process, and we'll talk.
Of course,
we'll talk that off season because we're going to be all over that.
Which brings us to
the
Miami Heat and
series.
the Brooklyn Nets. And I'll tell you what, I was disappointed in the Nets in game
last
one.
night.
Yeah, I was very disappointed in the Nets.
They just got done playing a 7-game
I know,
series.
but
they're old legs. They needed more rest.
I thought that maybe the younger guys that had experienced that 7 games would probably not feel the heat a little bit. No pun intended. Not feel the heat of the moment.
Do you consider Darren Williams a part of that younger group that needed? Okay.
Yes.
Because he's
like
not as young. He's not as young as he
He's
once
not
was.
as young, but he's also fresh legs, fresher in the playoffs for his career.
Were you disappointed in Joe Johnson? Because Joe Johnson has looked every bit of that contract in this playoffs.
I was saying,
I'm so happy.
The only person that I was not disappointed in was Joe Johnson, because he's
turned back into Atlanta. Johnson.
He's starting to play like you're saying. He's playing good. Like he doesn't know when he's going to get back into the playoffs.
No,
he's
fighting for his life right now. And
so
I love it.
I just hope Brooklyn can gather their legs in time to follow Joe Johnson's energy.
I think
they'll win at least one.
Yeah, fatigue and stamina, I think they'll be fine. They're not winning this series. I mean, I don't think there's any chance. Even if I didn't see Game 1, I didn't think they had any chance to win the series. I agree with Greg. I think Heat win in 5. I think Brooklyn takes Game 3. I don't think they win tomorrow night. I think they take 1 at home. Say, hey Brooklyn, thanks. We love Brooklyn.
You don't think they make just like that gumption stand and win 2 at home and then just losing 6?
No, because this Heat team is too good.
Yeah.
I mean, Shane Battier didn't play in the first round. He played 2 minutes in the first round. And then came in and D'd up in Game 1 and hit a couple huge threes. Miami is too good for Brooklyn. It's a fact. If Brooklyn had Brook Lopez, you could talk me into because that's how Brooklyn was built.
Because then they could dominate the paint.
That's how Brooklyn was built to beat Miami going inside out. They were going to stretch the floor, put Joe Johnson in the corners, and it was supposed to go inside out with Brook at the low post and Gagey at the high post. And then when Brook Lopez went down, I was all out on Brooklyn. And I love the run they've made. They beat a good Toronto team. Anyone who thinks Toronto isn't good needs to rethink basketball, because I think Toronto's a good team.
I thought Toronto was going to pull that one out in Game 7.
It looked like
it looked like they were going to. But, that's...
Yeah, it's a different story.
Drake thought they were going to pull it out.
Drake was really on Toronto, man.
Good
news is that he can go to the Heat.
I was listening to ESPN radio, and they said one of the good things about Toronto losing is that they didn't have to look at Drake and Justin Bieber sitting behind the Toronto bench.
Yeah.
And I just laughed.
They're coming to Miami.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to see. I wanted a Heat Raptors series to see what would Drake do in that situation.
Yeah, but basketball-wise, I think that series would have been a sweep without a doubt.
It probably would have.
Because I watched
Toronto,
a
I
couple
feel
of
like
Raptors games.
I feel like Toronto would have just been happy to be there. They would never admit that.
I don't know about that,
but they would have been satisfied with beating the Nets in 7.
Miami would have made it look like Toronto was just.
I'm just saying. Just think they would have came off that emotional high of beating the team that was we want to play the Raptors.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and you go back to the end of the regular season, Brooklyn tanked to face Miami.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
In the second round.
That's what I mean.
They wanted to be in Miami's side of the bracket, so this was the matchup they wanted, and. You might want to rethink that decision, Brooklyn, because I don't know why you'd want Miami any earlier than the Eastern Conference Finals, because Miami's just really good. So we all think Miami's going to run through this series.
I think they just sweep them at this point. Joe Johnson might be going off for 4 games, and Miami Heat might just be like, all right, well, we'll defend you as best we can.
We'll let you get hot. No one else is getting hot.
No one else.
I'd be completely shocked if the Heat weren't playing in the finals.
Me too.
That's it.
Me too.
Yeah.
You mean the NBA Finals?
The NBA Finals.
I'd be shocked if Miami is in the NBA Finals. And that's what most of us have been saying the entire year, but Indiana made it interesting, and there was the thought of Chicago before the year.
Indiana has a great chance.
Absolutely.
But not
Absolutely.
This Indiana.
If Indiana could start playing like Indiana was playing in, January, before the All-Star break, then then I wouldn't be shocked if Miami got bounced in the Eastern Conference Finals. But right now, in the East Conference, Miami's the cream of the crop, and there's no denying that.
And I was going to say, Washington kind of plays like Miami, and I've always told you, in a game where 2 teams play like each other, the one that does it better, I feel like, always
One
wins.
that has LeBron James wins.
Washington
Like I said,
Washington poses some problems though. I mean,
John
Wall's
Wall,
a tough
he
matchup
is
for
a tough
Chalmers.
match. He is.
Beal is young enough to run around D-Wade.
And just not know better and just go off maybe for a couple of games.
Gortat in the middle. They don't really have a guy who could go up against Gortat and Nene at the same time. LeBron would have to play out of position.
They would either need to steal the first game or play those first two really close.
Yeah.
So they would be like, whatever, we got you at home.
And I think that's where it comes into it. Eric Spoelstra's a 10-time better coach than Randy Whitman. And I think it would come down to coaching in that stance. And Spo would just figure out just how to work his offense and just say, look, we're going to get in foul trouble. And
we're going to get to that, too, coaching.
We are. But and that's a point that I've been saying. I have a good friend, Glenn, who goes to Arizona State.
Shout out to Glenn.
Shout out to Glenn.
What's
Glenn
up,
Anderson.
Glenn?
I've known him for years, but we always talk basketball. And he tried to tell me a few months ago that Eric Spoelstra wasn't a good coach, that he just had the luxury of having the big three. And I completely disagree.
Here's the thing.
I think Spoelstra's a great coach.
For just like Phil Jackson, and I want to say to some extent before Pat Riley went to New York and couldn't win.
Yeah.
Spoelstra's going to have to live with that until he wins, quote unquote, with someone that the media and the naysayers deem as you coached them.
He will, but what my friend Glenn was saying is not that he was in the class of even Phil Jackson, that he's a good coach, but he just had the talent. He was saying Spoelstra's just not a good coach.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
Because he did prove that the first year they lost the finals. The second year is because of his adjustments.
He adjusted.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he was not a good coach in the way your friend Glenn's saying, then I'd have to say they wouldn't have made the finals again. They would have just they would have regressed from that first year.
He played small.
Yeah.
He played small, playing Bosch at the 5 and LeBron at the 4.
After the first year, he basically looked at LeBron and said, look, you don't have a position. That's where we're going. Because the first season, they tried to make him a small forward, put him out on the perimeter, and just say, look, we're going to try and run a traditional offense. The next year, he said, LeBron, you don't have a position. You are
LeBron.
I'm going to create spots for you to go to and put our guys elsewhere. And they've won 2 rings with it.
Coach to the personnel, they're starting to blitz the heck out of the pick and roll, which is causing all of the turnovers.
James Jones didn't play at all this year, and Spoelstra pointed at him and said, look, you're going to play big-time minutes in the playoffs. What has James Jones done?
Money.
Come in and hit huge three-pointers. That cannot go unnoticed. That's coaching. That's not James Jones
and
being...
Shane Battier for the entire series,
I mean, you as a coach, you have to look at your guys and say, you have to trust me. You're not going to play for a while, and when I need you,
better be ready.
When I'm going to have to rely on you, you need to come through. And that cannot be unnoticed, that those guys are coming through for him. I think Spoelstra's at least a top 10 coach, probably a top 5. If you take away the talent, I think he could still be a really good coach.
Yeah.
But I think it's like you said, it's always going to follow him with these 2 rings and possibly the third this year.
Because it's going to look like that Pat Riley handpicked some young coach
and just put him
in, not get in the way.
That was the thing the first year, that Pat Riley was still just pulling the strings on Spoelstra and behind the scenes.
The puppet master.
I think Spoelstra is a terrific coach. The adjustments he's made, the personnel he's made.
And you know how you know that? And you know how you know you're right?
How?
In the last 2 years,
yeah.
How many times have you heard the media or any Miami Heat fans or pundits talk about Pat Riley stepping down from above to sit on that bench?
On April Fool's, PTI did a spoof about Larry Bird coming down and coaching for Frank Vogel, and they kind of mentioned that maybe Pat Riley was going to do the same thing.
But exactly,
it's not going to happen.
Not since that first year, right?
No, there have been no talks because
second year when if they lost the series to the Celtics, they're down 3-2.
Then
they would have. Spoelstra might have been gone.
But even those 2 games where they fended off Boston and LeBron. Still, one of the 3 greatest games I've ever seen from a single player. LeBron's Game 6 against Boston, and then they went on to Game 7. That was Spoelstra too, and he outcoached a guy named Glenn Doc Rivers,
who's a pretty good coach himself.
So,
2 Glens, 1 podcast.
Wow, ding!
I love Eric Spoelstra. I think he's a terrific coach, and I think Frank Vogel's a really good coach too.
Oh, there it is.
But I think if Spoelstra goes up against Vogel or Randy Whitman, I think Spo has the complete advantage. And I think that's a huge thing for Miami because Miami is a bullet train, and they are very good, but someone needs to be guiding the train. He's good at it.
Randy Whitman's had a pretty good run.
Randy Whitman's proven me wrong.
Tom Thibodeau.
Oh, he's proven me wrong.
Another good coach last series.
Absolutely. No, and I just thought before the year that Randy Whitman was a lame duck, and If Washington started out rough, then they'd get rid of him. But no, he's proven me wrong. Randy Whitman has made some really good adjustments. His lineup choices have been really good.
Same with Jason Kidd. I was very down on Jason Kidd at the start.
And I told you Jason Kidd was going to be all right. He just needed time to work. And
still don't know why he doesn't wear a tie.
Because he's too cool. He's
that's
too
just
casual.
the way Jason Kidd is.
Yeah, I don't ever expect him to wear a tie. He's going to be cool and suave and casual. No, I like Jason Kidd, but J Kidd for him to have to go up against this Miami monster in his first playoff run is tough.
So Eastern Conference Finals for you then is going to be Wizards and the Heat.
I have Wizards Heat.
Right.
And I didn't before the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
I've changed my mind before the playoffs.
And we'll talk about what you think on that after we get to the Eastern Conference Finals. But you know what? I would have to agree. Heat, Wizards, and I feel like we're, going to either see the Wizards grow up really fast, or
hit a wall,
or become like the Oklahoma City Thunder and dirty. Nailed it. But I mean, either way they're gonna grow.
Yeah.
After that series, if they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Moving on to the.
If the Pacers win this game, I think the Pacers will win the series.
If they win tonight, they win the series.
Okay.
If they don't win tonight, then you're picking Washington.
The Wizards.
All right. Well,
Wizards.
then you don't know what's going to happen tonight, so give me a pick.
I'll go with the Pacers.
Pacers, okay. And
So Pacers, Heat, and it will
Pacers
for sure.
the Eastern.
All right.
Yeah. So moving on to the West.
Well, by the way, I hope we get to see Pacers Heat again.
Oh yeah,
Because
I really.
Even
if
Indiana's playing poorly,
well, no, here's the
that'll
thing.
still be fun.
I think if Indiana can weather it all and get to the Eastern Conference Finals,
then they'll be rejuvenated.
And when they realize we're against the Heat,
yeah.
then all of a sudden it's going to start turning on. I think
The
for
only
everybody.
problem I have is that the Pacers, I think, have had 14 closed-door meetings this season.
Yeah.
And it hasn't seemed to work out very well each time.
With numerous players coming in and out, different organization members.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm thinking they need to get to that Eastern Conference Finals.
But
Or they need to stop having closed-door meetings because obviously they're not working.
try open-door meetings.
Yeah, maybe just let the public come in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a democracy.
Is he fired if they lose to the Wizards?
It's going to be close because he's on the hot. Larry Bird
He's
is
definitely
losing
on
some
the hot
patience right
seat.
now.
He's definitely
But
on the
if
hot
he,
seat.
and I will say, if Frank Vogel gets let go, he's going to be in hot demand.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was going to say
Steve Kerr's no longer the most wanted coach. It's Frank Vogel.
because there is a prodigal son waiting in the horizon for the Pacers.
Mark Jackson. I thought that the other day too. If Vogel leaves, Mark Jackson could go to Indiana.
We'll get to Mark Jackson.
We'll get to it, but
And then dominoes could be just falling everywhere at that point. And then Steve Kerr just sits there and waits to see where everyone lands, I think.
well, okay, we've just
Anyway,
decided we're doing a big coaching discussion after the playoffs because we're naming names right now.
So-
I want to talk about.
So anyway, Western Conference.
Yes.
I feel like
Can we just before we start Western Conference Finals, can we just say how unfucking believable the first round of the Western
oh
Conference
god,
Finals
it was great.
I don't care what series you were watching. Any game you were watching, you were like, "Oh my god, this is great basketball."
Yeah.
Any series, any game, it was terrific basketball.
And I mean, I hate it when the Lakers don't make the playoffs. But
You didn't even notice.
But this year,
I didn't even notice
if they did make the playoffs, I probably would have not been watching like every other series.
They would have gotten swept by the Spurs again if they made the playoffs this year, and it would
Yeah.
have been worse.
It would have been worse.
We wouldn't have had Dallas, San Antonio for 7 games, which was fantastic basketball.
It was.
No, and I talked about this with my dad the other day. My dad's a big sports fan, but he doesn't follow it as much as I do, which isn't saying anything bad about him.
You
I
hate
follow.
your dad, okay.
No, I love my dad. My dad is actually at the Anaheim Angels Yankees game today.
Is your dad a fan of the podcast?
I think he hasn't watched in the last 5, but I love you anyway, Dad. Anyway,
He's saying it out of love.
he saw an alert on his phone because he gets SportsCenter apps or whatever. He saw a stat. I think it was the first time since I want to say 1980 something that the Knicks, the Celtics, and the Lakers have all missed the playoffs.
I saw that.
Year.
I saw that.
And before the playoffs, I was worried, we don't really have a lot of, big name things. Miami's,
Brands.
hashtag brands, hashtag NBA brands. And it turns out we had arguably the greatest first round of the NBA playoffs.
Yes.
And those 3 humongous markets weren't involved.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
didn't notice.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice Boston was in it. I didn't even notice the Lakers weren't around.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Even though the Knicks and the Lakers weren't involved,
yeah.
I mean,
They were
the metropolitan area of New York area, the area
Yes.
and LA, they were still watching because the Clippers and the Nets.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that the Clippers and Nets, the crosstown rivals were involved, and it also doesn't help that the Lakers fired their coach, or he resigned, and we're going to talk coaching later.
You know what I love though? I love no matter how bad the Lakers are.
Yeah.
When they fire a coach,
they're still more important than the Clippers.
It leads, yeah.
That's why I still laugh at people who call it the Clippers are taking over LA. Never. Ever will that happen.
Hey, they'll have to be this good for 25, 30 years.
It'll never happen. And I don't live in LA, but it'll never happen.
Hey, well, listen to this, okay? For our YouTube people. It's going to take 20 or 30 years of the Clippers being this good for them to surpass not the Lakers in LA, surpass the Dodgers in LA, okay?
The LA Rams.
It's
going to take forever. That was a low blow.
Oh, that's kind of
the LA Kiss, I think it's going to take a long time to pass them. So.
Oh, God. Anyways,
it's a Laker and Dodger town.
My entire point was that the first round of the Western Conference playoffs was amazing, and we didn't have the Lakers in it. And the Knicks and Celtics didn't play in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, which is great for the NBA.
The Clippers.
It's terrific.
The Clippers have a 1-0 lead in Oklahoma City.
They do.
And I feel like if any other team was down 0-1 to the Clippers at this point, I'd be like, over 4 or 5 games, done. But the Oklahoma City Thunder, I feel like almost thrive in these, we're kind of back against the wall kind of thing. Kevin Durant just got his MVP award. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the... I haven't heard...
Oh, you haven't seen it?
I've seen the speech. I haven't heard it yet.
Did you tear up?
There were times, yeah.
I teared up when he went to his mom.
I kept seeing it at Woodstocks, and I couldn't have... There was no volume on there.
Yeah.
And I don't have cable at home, so I was like, I'll look at it later. I forgot.
We'll do a little Kevin Durant tangent right here. Great guy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, there's never been any character issues about him. The Mr. Unreliable thing.
If Oklahoma City thinks you're unreliable, come to LA, please.
Whatever. But if LeBron wasn't around, Durant would be as big as LeBron is. That's how good Kevin Durant is.
Here's what Kevin Durant. He had an interview with ESPN earlier this year. And they asked him, I think it has something to do with Michael Jordan, or he doesn't have that tenacity where he doesn't hate other people, doesn't hate other players, and he's just
That's Kobe.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with being a nice guy and a good player.
That's what he said. That's Durant.
That's exactly the right answer.
That's in essence what Kevin Durant is.
That's the right answer, right? But I remember that interview. After he said that, there was seriously talking heads talking about that for 2 days.
I know.
And they weren't talking about how that was the right answer. They were talking about how, if you're an Oklahoma City fan, are you okay that your superstar doesn't have that killer instinct? And I was like, that doesn't mean he doesn't have the killer instinct. He just wants to be
a nice guy.
And he, trust me.
Magic Johnson.
The thing you have to understand is in the National Basketball Association, you have to have that killer instinct, and I don't think Kevin Durant has it. Something like that.
Talking head voice right there. That was actually pretty good.
That was really good.
Durant has the killer instinct.
And to my response to that, Magic Johnson.
Yeah, he was
great guy. Always smiled. But he'd want to rip your heart out in the championship because he wants to win.
And then he would want to party with you afterwards.
And then he'd want to party with you afterwards.
He partied quite a bit.
He did party quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Oh, Magic, you're lucky you're so rich that you basically beat. You beat it.
Yeah, he did.
You beat it.
I love Kevin Durant. It sounds like we all love Kevin Durant.
So the question though is, saying all that,
yes,
do you think that first game score? Do you think that was the Clippers riding high off of their momentum off the first round?
It had no.
Or
it had nothing to do with round one. And I know the second part here. It was Chris Paul.
I was gonna say Paul. Or do you think it was Oklahoma City just not being prepared for Chris Paul after having to come back from 7 games from Memphis?
Had nothing to do with preparation for Chris Paul. Chris Paul doesn't shoot the ball when he plays basketball anymore. He decided 2 years ago, look, I'm a facilitator. Yeah. I'm going to shoot I'm going to shoot maybe 7 or 8 times a game. He doesn't shoot the ball. Game 1, he came out shooting.
He did.
He looked like he wanted to shoot. I watch a ton of Chris Paul. That's the first time I've ever seen him be that aggressive on offense since he wore a New Orleans Hornets jersey. And that's saying something. He's been a Clipper for a few years now. He came out aggressive.
Yes.
That's why the Clippers won Game 1. It's because Chris Paul just decided, look, I'm going to go nuts and remind people I can still shoot the ball as well. And what did he make? 8 threes?
Yeah,
that's almost a playoff record.
8 consecutive threes.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's why the Clippers won the game.
It's not going to happen again.
It's not. He's not going to. He's not even going to try to do it.
So saying that.
Yeah.
Do the Clippers win the series?
I picked the Thunder before the series in 7 games because I think it's so much of a toss-up that it's tough to say anyone's going to win this in less than 7.
You know what happens?
So then you're saying then the Thunder are going to take one of 2 in LA.
Do you know where Russell Westbrook played his college ball?
I understand that.
Do you know where he loves playing?
Well, I know, but what I was going to bring up.
He plays out of his mind in Staples Center.
Do you know what his field goal percentage in the overtimes were against Memphis?
That's Memphis. It's a
0%.
different series.
0%.
It's a different series. Memphis is a tough matchup for OKC.
You know how relieved the Thunder are that they don't have to play the defense of the Grizzlies anymore?
The Grizzlies don't get enough credit for how good of a team they are.
We have the best record in the NBA since Marc Gasol came back.
Tony Allen, right?
Tony Allen's a defensive stopper.
Kevin Durant probably woke up in the middle of the night the other day having nightmares of Tony Allen basically.
Because you know what he said? Because what the Thunder try to do is what all teams try to do when they try to get their good players open. They run them off a bunch of screens.
And that's what Tony Allen thrives
on. And Zach Lowe, Grantland writer, asked Tony Allen, what do you do? And Tony Allen just said, I don't get screened.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's Tony Allen.
No, and you know what? I saw that series. He was a madman through those screens. They tried to screen him. He was like, "No, I'm going over the top every time."
That's why you can't factor in the Memphis series. That's why the playoffs are so amazing. Because you can take one matchup and then go to the next round and have a completely different matchup.
You know what happened in that first game? The Clippers did it in Game 2 against the Warriors. They'll have games where they just shoot the bananas
They can't miss.
Danny Granger, Jamal Crawford.
Hito was making threes in that game too.
Chris Paul had a great game shooting. And then Griffin's knocking down a mid-range jumper, which he's good at. And
you get Jamal Crawford, heat check. Yeah. They have those games. So. I'm not too worried about this series being over. The Clippers have an overbearing edge. I don't think there is an edge. I think the Thunder prove it tonight. I think Durant has a big game, and I think it goes back to LA tied.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to being a toss-up, because I think this series is a toss-up. I can see every single way the Clippers win this series, because the Clippers are good enough to beat the Thunder, but the Thunder are also good enough to beat the Clippers. This is as much a toss-up as I thought Clippers Warriors.
I just think that after that MVP speech, just the way it looked, I feel like maybe Kevin Durant might come out just firing, just as if he feels like he has his whole team's blessing to just go out there and be a madman.
That was the one thing that worried me, though, was watching Game 1. Durant played well.
Yeah.
I know it was a 20-point blowout, but Durant was playing well. He was making mid-range jumpers. He was getting open shots. That was the one thing that kind of worried me. Okay, well, they already got Durant going, and they still lost by 20. How much more can they do? So I don't think it's as much Durant. I think it's the other guys getting galvanized around him. I think Cephalosha's going to have a big game tonight. I think Ibaka's going to realize, look,
big game for Thabo.
I love Thabo Cephalosha. I think Tony Allen's here and Cephalosha's right here on defensive stoppers. Thabo guarded LeBron when they played in the NBA Finals and did it really well.
He also got a DNP in the final.
Yeah, and he did. But no, I think we were saying with the MVP. Ceremony or whatever. I think Durant's going to be galvanized by it, but I think it worked more for his teammates than him to show just how humble he was, and by singling out each teammate, I think that helped him, and that's only going to work for this game. That's not going to matter when they go to LA.
No.
Just going to be another thing that happened along the season, but I think they can use that for tonight, and the Clippers are not an easy out on any night. Even when they're not making their threes, they're still a tough team to beat, as the Warriors found out in Series 1. But I think I'm still going to stick with the Thunder. I'm sticking Thunder in 7 because I think this goes 7 because it's just every night I think it's a toss-up of who's going to win because Blake Griffin went to Oklahoma. He loves playing in Oklahoma City. Those are his hometown fans, even though they didn't treat him that well. He loves playing there. And Chris Paul, where did he just get done playing? He played a year in Oklahoma City. He was from the New Orleans, Oklahoma City.
This is true.
So there's no real home court advantage for me because Durant loves playing in LA. Durant's a superstar.
Yeah.
Superstars thrive in LA. Westbrook loves LA. Ibaka's just a crazy guy from the Congo that he just loves playing basketball. So I don't think there's any home court advantage here, and that's part of the Thunder allure is that when you go to Oklahoma City, it's tough to win. I don't think that bothers the Clippers at all. So that's why I think it's a toss-up.
So in the toss-up, I agree, it's a toss-up. I think Oklahoma City's going to win too, but if they lose...
Yeah, I'm not going to be shocked.
Is Brooks fired?
No, because...
I think long and hard about it, I would say that.
But, and you love Bill Simmons, I love Bill Simmons too. He made this comment a couple months ago. Brooks is under contract. I think at least next year. It might be 2 more years, and it's a hefty contract.
Okay.
I mean, it's a top-notch coaching contract. What Oklahoma City proved with the James Harden trade is that they're a cheap organization. They're not going to spend $1 more than they have to. They're not going to pay Scotty Brooks not to coach them.
That's true. No, I'm just asking because
it's a good question because
I heard on the radio the other day. The only concern someone had for Scott Brooks is he hasn't evolved really as a coach.
Nor is the Thunder offense, nor is the Thunder defense.
There's a couple. I think you brought up a good point. They don't spend money, which adds to the problem. Which is why they have Durant and Westbrook and a bunch of role players. Jeremy Lamb and Perry Jones were getting big minutes. Now they're getting no minutes.
Perry Jones the third,
and they picked up Caron Butler off the scrap heap, and now he's starting in the playoffs.
Yeah, and
that just tells you all you need to know about the supporting cast of the Thunder.
And it just leads me to believe that basketball wise, they should really think about looking for a different coach because I don't think Scotty Brooks is good enough as an offensive coach to fix the Thunder's problems, which they do have problems, even though they're still a really good team, but. With him having more money on his contract and years in his contract, the Thunder are too cheap to fire him and still pay out his contract while paying another guy to come in and coach. I don't think he gets fired for that reason. Basketball-wise, he should.
Greg?
Thunder, I'll say Thunder in 6.
Thunder in 6, okay. And, I could also see it being over rather quickly with every game from here on out being close. I can't see it.
Yeah.
I think this goes 7 games because every night is going to be a toss-up. But I like the Thunder too.
I want to say, in the toss-up mode, I want to say it like this. If the Thunder win tonight, I think they win in 7.
Okay.
But I think if the Clippers win tonight, they'll win in 6.
Okay.
So what's it going to be?
So what's your pick?
I don't know.
DK?
I made him pick earlier.
Oklahoma City in 7.
Okay.
All right. Which leads us to the last discussion of this NBA playoffs before we take a break.
Can I start off this series?
Yeah, Portland and San Antonio.
We did if you're following on YouTube, me and DK did a podcast with Greg Cotta before the playoffs, and we had a pretty long exchange over Houston-Portland, and those two picked Houston and didn't really give Portland a chance.
Yeah.
And I said Portland in 5.
You did.
I was wrong. I was wrong, and I was pissed because they had an opportunity in Game 5 to win that game and blew it. They blew Game 5, but they ended up winning in 6. Damian Lillard, LaMarcus Aldridge. I knew LaMarcus Aldridge was that good. I didn't know if he was 43 points good.
You know what, though?
But I knew he was that good.
I just didn't know that Dwight Howard really wasn't going to show up.
I saw it.
I mean,
Dwight Howard doesn't.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay. Dwight Howard is the best player in that series for the Rockets.
For the Rockets. Okay. Yeah. LaMarcus Aldridge is the best player in the series.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know.
For the Rockets, Dwight Howard had a heck of a series.
If the Rockets had someone other than Dwight Howard man in the middle, James Harden would have probably gotten more opportunities, and that would have been much more competitive.
It wasn't his fault that they were force-feeding him the ball.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
That was the problem. I agree. That was a mistake.
Well, it was his fault because he came to the Rockets, and his main point was force-feed me the ball. I can lead you to a series.
I don't know if that was his...
Well, I can carry you.
And the fact is he's not an excellent post-up player.
No.
But I think his defense probably prevented a lot of buckets that people don't see because James Harden's defense is not...
At this point in his career, Dwight Howard cannot be the focal point of the offense.
I know.
Exactly.
He can't be.
I don't know. Just for the money that he made, he should have been able to somehow win another game, maybe.
And James Harden should
have
shot the ball better.
It was not Dwight's fault that they lost the series.
I agree.
No, I know.
And he was probably part of the reason. Yeah, I know.
It's well chronicled.
Do you think Kevin McHale should be fired?
Yeah, I do.
I think so too.
I love Kevin McHale.
I love Kevin McHale.
I don't think
he should be fired.
He's another one of those coaches that kind of can evolve a team, but not take it to that next level. I don't know.
You know, their fourth quarter offense is just James Harden. Let me just dribble around for a little bit and shoot a long 2, not even a 3.
They had no offense in the fourth quarter.
That's true.
And then when they
if not for Robin Lopez, Dwight Howard doesn't look as good because Robin Lopez just cannot guard Dwight Howard in the post. I think Houston had a lot of problems, and I saw that. I'm going to take credit for Washington. And I'm going to take credit for Portland. I got Portland right because I'm on the Portland bandwagon. Yes. Bought my Damian Lillard shirt like a week and a half ago. It came in the mail yesterday. Wore it last night. For them to get brutally pounded.
I was gonna say.
Just pounded.
Now that we've gone through that,
man, oh man, did they get beat?
Aaron Baines.
Let's talk about the Spurs, and
they got destroyed.
Just to kind of bring you up to speed, Greg, when me, Sean, and Kata did the NBA playoff preview, there was a very long and just kind of deep discussion about the Spurs.
Deep. Oh, it got philosophical.
It did actually.
It kind of did because
we're not joking. It did
because it was like, when do you stop believing in the Spurs? And then Greg was like, well, I'll tell you what. I used to not believe in the Spurs, but no more. Mm-hmm. Last year proved to me that you just believe in the Spurs until there's a better team in front of them. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and I said, and to your point, if Ray Allen doesn't make that three, the Spurs are, defending champions.
Finals, yeah.
But to that point, we all said, okay, how far are the Spurs going? And I think not me, because I had the Warriors being the Spurs, but I had the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals.
Warriors, Pacers, NBA Finals. Warriors, Pacers.
He stuck to his guns.
He did.
Hey, one play here or there, one call here or there, they'd still be alive the second round.
Let's go ahead.
Just say. Anyway.
It's like picking Duke to win the national championship this year. Something I did.
Anyway, the Spurs, I think we all agreed, though, the Spurs were going to make the Western Conference Finals. And the real question was, when do we stop believing in the Spurs? And I think we agreed about 10 years ago, but that doesn't matter because the Spurs are Spurs.
Yeah.
And once again, after
never. Yeah.
struggling, and I mean struggling to beat the Mavs, and I mean they came within, one of those missed layups, at the buzzer type of things from Dallas with Barbosa. Barbosa.
Oh.
Is it Barbosa?
I don't think Barbosa plays for the Mavericks.
Who's the... Anyway.
Who are you talking about?
Who are you talking about? On Dallas?
Yeah, on Dallas. He's a point guard.
Devin Harris?
Jose Calderon.
Maybe.
Barbosa's Brazilian, Calderon Spanish.
I'm sorry to my Brazilian listeners.
Brazilian blur! I missed that guy.
Anyway, I mean, the Spurs, came within inches of not making it out of the first round.
They did.
And then they basically just dismantled what would arguably be one of the hotter teams coming out of the first round.
They did. They completely tore them apart.
And how many of us are shocked?
I was.
Were you?
I thought Portland would put up a better fight.
I thought they would too, but I'm not shocked.
Well, they had 1-3 in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm more shocked that Portland didn't show up as opposed to San Antonio putting a beat down on them.
Well, I think what it proved was in that Houston-Portland series, which you ask anyone who believes that the first round of the playoffs this year was the best playoffs they've seen, is because of that Houston-Portland series and how awesome it was. If you go back and watch that Houston-Portland series, which is something it was so glaring to me, those were the two worst defenses in the playoffs. It wasn't that both offenses are spectacular.
Yeah.
There were just a lot of open spaces and a lot of driving lanes, and I think Tony Parker saw that, and he was watching that. I think he watched a lot of that series and said, oh my God, I'm going to feast on both of these teams because I can get wherever I want on the court. I can do whatever I want.
33 or something?
And then he sat for like the last 5 or 6 minutes. As good as Portland looked on offense in that Houston series, it was a lot having to do with Houston being a terrible defensive team. And as good as San Antonio looked on offense...
And a lot of those same talking heads also brought up the point, San Antonio's going to make that third pass because Portland, they can defend the first two.
Yes.
They're really good at it. But the third pass,
rotations are not good.
They're not very good at rotating on the third pass.
And San Antonio has enough shooters to do it. If Kawhi Leonard's making his threes, Danny Green has proven he's a clutch three-point shooter.
Manu Ginobili off the bench playing 10 minutes a game.
Parker hit a couple threes. Who does not shoot three-pointers. It's just a bad matchup. I thought Portland would have put up a better fight, but if Tony Parker can get anywhere he wants on the court...
So I know in the other two series, or other three series, we were talking about 6 games, 7 games, competitive series. Does Spurs win in 4, 5?
I say Spurs in 6.
6?
Because Portland's going to have games where they can't miss from 3-point range, and that happens. So.
I said San Antonio in 6 in my tweet or whatever. I tweeted out all the series. I think Portland at home is going to be a different story. I think they lose game 2. But I think once Portland goes back home, it'll be different.
I think San Antonio wins in 5 because I think they go in 2-0. Portland wins that third game because they have that home crowd going.
Yeah. And
then the Spurs are like, we don't want to come back here, so they win that next one and then just go home to close it out.
I saw a game, I want to say it was in January, and it was San Antonio in Portland. Aldridge didn't play. Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili all didn't play. So it was Portland.
God.
Portland almost at full strength minus Aldridge, but San Antonio playing their reserves.
Yes.
And San Antonio won by 1 point. And I watched every minute of that game, and San Antonio was out. San Antonio's bench, Patty Mills at the time, Danny Green was starting. I don't even think Kawhi Leonard played that game.
And you know what?
And they outplayed Portland.
And if you're out there and you know me, make a memory of this, okay? Because this may never come out of my mouth ever again.
Make a memory.
I'm excited.
And that's why the Spurs are probably one of the greatest teams in my lifetime.
Why do you have any qualms of saying that?
I hate Spurs.
I
hate Spurs.
DK, I hate that. I went from a Lakers fan to a Suns fan. They
here's the thing.
stole the ring off Steve Nash's finger. I hate the Spurs. Well, they're one of the best teams I've ever seen. I have no problem saying
it. Because when Popovich sits his stars,
they still
the
play like the
backups
Spurs.
come in and still play.
They're still the Spurs.
Well, you know why? Because
it's
when
the
they're
system.
playing, they're almost, I feel like, auditioning for Pop. Like, I get maybe 3-4 games a year to start.
Yeah.
I'm going to audition for Pop, so when it comes playoff time, I'm in the rotation and not, save for the next round or 2 minutes.
Well, to go to your point, a guy most NBA diehards would recognize, Corey Joseph, was Tony Parker's backup for a lot of the year.
Yeah.
And then Patty Mills came in for 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
Patty Mills destroyed a few teams, and Greg Popovich was like, okay, I'm going to make a change. Patty Mills is my backup. Corey Joseph, go sit down at the end of the bench. We'll use you during practice. Goes to your point. Every time he sits those guys, which he gets criticized for it,
and it's
but
crazy,
it
too,
works.
because those guys that sit, they never complain.
No.
Because they know, I'm going to get my shot somewhere along the line to come back into this rotation.
Don't have any qualms of saying the Spurs are one of the best teams you've ever seen. They are.
Yeah.
They're the best team of this generation right now. It's amazing. I despise the Spurs. They went from being the Lakers' main rivals to Robert Horry, a guy I love, wearing a Spurs uniform and pushing Steve Nash right into the scorer's bench. And Amari Stoudemire and Boris Diaw wanted to come have his back, and they stepped 2 steps onto the fucking court. And the NBA suspended them, and the Spurs went on, and the rest is fucking history.
You know what? I remember that series, and I remember
the Phoenix Suns would have won a title that year, and Nash would have had a ring.
I know. I just remember thinking, though,
and I hate it.
I just remember thinking, wow, Robert Horry, you do so many of the little things that, like...
I love him, but I hate
so annoying. You know, exactly, right?
I love him, but I hate him.
And that was the year they hit the 3 against Detroit, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, oh god. What were you thinking, Rasheed Wallace?
Phoenix would have run circles around that Detroit team.
What were you
Detroit
thinking,
wouldn't even
Rasheed
know what
Wallace?
to do with that Phoenix team.
Yes.
And it pisses me off. But
anyway,
don't have any qualms in saying the Spurs are one of the best teams you've ever seen.
I do.
They are.
Yeah.
I hate them. I hate Tim Duncan above just about anything else, but I respect him.
You already sold your soul to the devil when you became a Dodger fan, so.
I think the devil might actually be a Dodgers fan.
Oh, man. Boo. Boo. George Steinbrenner is not a Dodger fan. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that.
George Steinbrenner isn't the devil.
He's not the devil.
He's God.
He's not God, but he's not the devil.
He's the puppet master.
Oh, man. Anyway, so I say Spurs in 5.
Spurs in 5.
You guys have Spurs in 6.
Spurs in 6, yeah.
So just to recap what's going on, you have the Pacers.
Yes.
We have the Wizards. Mm-hmm. We all have... No, wait.
Yes.
We all have Thunder?
Yes.
Okay. And then we all have Miami, obviously. I don't think any of us picked Brooklyn. And then we all have San Antonio in 5 or 6, basically.
Yes.
And I want to say, I said preseason Spurs Heat.
I know you did.
I said Spurs Heat and Heat in 7 again.
That's just that's the boring thing to pick.
That's boring, dude.
But it's the right. It's gonna be the right pick. And I cannot wait to shove it all in your faces. It's gonna be great.
Oh, come on, Brooklyn, do something. Anyway.
But don't you want to see that series again?
I do. We're gonna take a quick break. Maybe not for our YouTube viewers, but for our SoundCloud listeners, we're gonna take a quick break, and then when we come back, I'm gonna have. At least me. I'm going to have a little extended rant about Mark Jackson, coaching, Golden State Warriors, NFL draft, things like that. We're just going to it's a whole hodgepodge of things when we come back.
Just throwing it all
So, we'll see you in a few. Yeah.
I love the noises.
See you in a few.
Did you do your hay at the beginning?
Yeah, I did.
I don't remember hearing it. Anyways. All right, so we'll do coaching for a little bit. And then... What do you want to do on the NFL draft? I know you want to talk Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but you talk Teddy Bridgewater. It's fine.
I think it was really cool what he did for his mom.
What did he do for school?
He's a great guy.
Oh, so they went to like dinner for like her birthday or something.
Yeah.
And when he was 13, 14, when he was a kid, his mom survived breast cancer. And so he said, one of these days when I make it to the NFL, I'm going to buy you a pink Escalade. And they came out of the restaurant, and there was a pink Escalade parked on the side of the road. And it was like, this is for you. You know, and like Good Morning America, and like Robin Roberts, everything, like got interviewing.
Well, now I think he's going to be the best quarterback of this draft.
Yes.
All right. Him and Kevin Durant, man. Good job. Anyway.
Bridgewater's not that good.
Teddy football.
Teddy, oh my God. I really don't understand why you're on the Bridgewater bandwagon.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Kills me.
Oh boy.
Whatever. All right.
So we're doing
coaching,
draft, and
I just want to touch on hockey
if you want.
I actually want to do. Can I do hockey right after the coaching? Because I'm going to tie it into the coaching.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So I'll end the coaching thing whenever I feel necessary.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh my God.
I don't think it's recording.
It's not recording. Well, is it?
Hey, will you scoot over so you're in the video?
No, it is recording. It is recording.
Like,
It's
you
recording
have
on
to-
the end.
yeah.
It's recording on the end.
Okay.
So we're good.
We're all good. And you just sit still. Stop moving around.
I'm a fidgety person. I can't sit still. Sorry.
Well, then next time we're gonna have to fix it and have us be like up there and you be back here and like you
Yeah.
turn to both of us.
Well, you know what? I look at myself right there and I'm just like, oh, I have to scoot over. That's
No,
why I scoot over. You know?
I know you're aware of it, but like I know you like to move around. We need to move you to the back next time. Whatever.
Hey, don't move me to the back of the bus, all right?
I'm not moving you to the back. I'm giving you more room.
Anyway, sorry. We're back from break.
Whatever.
We're back from break, and we're talking about coaching in the NBA. And if you're an Aggie Talk listener, you did hear our discussion about the firing of Mark Jackson from the Golden State Warriors.
Warriors.
And come out and play.
Come out to play.
And you know that I thought that was the wrong move. That he should have gotten, one, if not 2 more years, because I feel like 3 years isn't enough of a period to fully understand whether or not you can coach a certain team or not. But I understand. In professional sports these days, it's a win now business, and so I still don't understand why he got fired because technically he was winning. But what my problem? I went home and I thought about this and. There are a lot of good coaches out there, and we are right. The Warriors' job is one of the sexiest jobs out there.
I love it
But-
when you say sexy.
It's got some curves,
But if I'm, say, an established
hits.
coach
all the right places.
or a young up and coming coach that has success elsewhere,
Mhm.
I just witnessed the ownership group fire a coach that has improved his win record every year that he was there.
Mhm.
He led the team to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons for the first time in 17, 20 years, something like that.
Mhm.
And they fired him because he wasn't their guy. Now, why do I want to go to a situation like that where if the ownership deems me not their guy, they're going to get rid of me? And if I go there, I know the expectations. You got to at least win 50 games now. You got to make it to the second round because first round's not good enough anymore, even though there's not a history of them even making the playoffs in the last 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah.
And if I can't do all those things within the, glee and enjoyment of these hands-on owners, I may lose my job.
Well, and that's a huge thing of why the uproar was so uproarious for the Mark Jackson firing.
Are you on the you're on the firing bandwagon, or you are on the not fire? You said you didn't want them to fire.
No, I don't think he should have been fired. But I think to go to DK's point, the precedent that they set by firing him is a slippery slope.
It is.
And as a high school basketball coach, that it's not anywhere near the same level, but for coaches around the league, they took notice of that.
Yeah.
That this guy had success. He had success that improved each year, got him to the playoffs, and was still let go. I mean, it wasn't a D'Antoni resigning thing. He was fired.
Yeah.
And you guys had a great discussion on Aggie Talk last night, but I think what it comes down to is because the ownership did not like him. He didn't get along with ownership. They had some clashes. He had some clashes with his assistant coaches. And the press release that the Warriors put out was, we are moving in a different direction. It was no abolishment of what he had done coaching-wise.
No,
it was
for
nothing
sure.
like that. It was the owners wanted to handpick the next guy.
I'm not saying that they treated him wrong and ill, like, spoke ill of him.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But, I don't know. Like, unless you're someone like...
Well,
I mean, I'm not saying Phil Jackson's going to come out of his cushy front office, but I'm saying if you're not someone that has the credentials of, say, not even a Phil Jackson, but let's say...
not a young coach, a guy with tenure.
Let's say
Stan
Van Gundy,
yeah.
right? Now, Stan Van Gundy, if I remember correctly when he was in Orlando, he had some run-ins with the front office.
Absolutely.
You know, he's a guy that's out there in the media talking about his stars and talking about his
mainly
front
with
office.
Dwight. That was where it stemmed from.
Well,
yeah, it was Dwight.
Well, how do you know? How do you know that's just not
I
his
don't
personality?
know, but that's when...
Well, I'm just saying, though, but you don't know, right? I don't know. We don't know. If I'm Stan Van Gundy, though, why would I want to come into a situation where possibility of eventually, if my style doesn't work...
Well, I'm going to let Greg go, but just... That's what NBA coaching is.
Yeah, but the 3 years bothers me, though. It feels like they didn't give him the actual... You know what I mean? That's why...
That's a whole different story of why they fired him and why you're worried about the precedent. Yes. The precedent that I mentioned that coaches took notice of was that there was no other reason to fire Mark Jackson because of his success on the court.
Other than
that wasn't fireable. It was fireable because he didn't like organization. The organization didn't like him.
Yeah.
That's why it's a slippery slope. That's true of any NBA coaching job. The owners can come in and fire anyone they want. They work for the owners.
That's true.
That's why it's a slippery slope. This is the first time in recent history that any coach has gotten fired with having that kind of success. Yeah. I mentioned George Karl on the show last night. George Karl's a similar situation.
I guess Lionel Hollins.
A similar, like they had success, but Mark Jackson's a little bit different because it's so evident that it was organization versus Mark Jackson. Where I wouldn't be too worried about the type of coach coming in. They know that going in. They work for the owners, they work for the organization, and there needs to be a stable relationship between them. Mark Jackson didn't have that, and it's reported that he doesn't really care that he didn't have that. He'll be fine anywhere else he goes, but I wouldn't be too worried about the next type of coach, whether it be a young up-and-comer like a Freddie Hoiberg or a Steve Kerr, or a long-tenured guy like a Stan Van Gundy. I think anyone can come in and do well because I think the organization is going to handpick them, and they're going to be the guy that they want. I wouldn't be too worried about that.
I only bring up my worry because I said this off-air on Tuesday. Like, I am a Laker fan, but I've lived up in this area for long enough where, I mean, I don't root for the Kings at all, really. I kind of have an affinity for the Warriors almost as my, like, team that I follow that's not the Lakers, you know? And knowing how excited they were back when the Baron Davis days when they beat the Mavericks, and, you know, knowing when I was down south, knowing how good they were with Run TMC and all that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just feel like I feel like what happened was, you know, you got a taste of the goodness and you just want to do it on your own, but I get it. It's a slippery slope, like you said. I don't know.
Well,
they just got to make the playoffs next year.
Well, okay, so there are two things. This is Mark Jackson firing has about a million different aspects to it.
It does.
Yeah. But to cut it in two halves, you have the off-the-court stuff and the on-the-court stuff. We're just going to throw out the on-the-court stuff right now for the time being. Off-the-court stuff, I don't know if a lot of people realize how substantial a lot of the off-the-court problems were. There's because he fired two assistant coaches during the season.
One being Scalabrine.
One being Brian Scalabrine.
Who I love.
There are reports that it's because it was undermining the head coach, that he was trying to move up the ladder. Mark Jackson didn't. He's kind of a power struggle.
They just didn't.
Mark Jackson loves to be in control.
Yes.
Scalabrine, you're gone.
Yeah.
Ehrman was he recorded messages, which is bad.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
But he was doing it because he thought the other coaches were talking bad about him behind his back.
Mm-hmm. Because
Mark Jackson has this whole just like click almost now that where he has to have everything under control, which is why it all started last year when he didn't get along with Mike Malone the past two seasons because he was a pullover from the last coaching regime.
Yep.
And Mike Malone's kind of the tactician, the X's and O's guy.
He was his
defense guy. The ownership really wanted him to keep him, and Mark Jackson said, "Okay, fine, I'll keep him." And towards the end of last year, their relationship reportedly was just
Horrible.
was nothing.
Yeah.
And he's the tactician. And now you get to this season, he fires 2 assistant coaches. And all reports are this was not an NBA staff in the playoffs.
It wasn't.
They had Pete Myers, Lindsey Hunter, both guys that aren't, names that are being thrown out for head coaches.
No. Yeah.
Lindsey Hunter is was an interim head coach,
Yeah,
but
he
he's
tried
also
it and didn't do well.
and
in
he's
Phoenix.
also been, there are a number of reports where he's been linked to trying to undermine head coaching relationships, and he just has this very small circle that he trusts. And the ownership group didn't like that at all. He was undermining everything. It's a nice noise though, TJ. But he didn't listen to what ownership wanted to do. A lot of them thought he was really arrogant.
Yeah.
There's just a whole lot of dysfunction there. He didn't want Jerry West at practices. He didn't like ownership involved in his stuff.
Why would you piss Jerry West off? Why
and
would you do that?
The logo.
And then ownership is to blame for some of this too. They hired a guy another problem a lot of people were saying, his religious stuff, that a lot of people thought that, a lot of players were on board, but there are also a lot of that have been on record that saying, specifically Andrew Bogut, who didn't, was not on the same page.
And all that kind of stuff.
And he didn't move to the Bay Area. He stayed living in Los Angeles.
That was a huge deal.
Which people knew that they knew that the ownership knew that was going to happen. So that was that's partially their fault.
Yep.
But all these just different aspects built up to a relationship where it was Mark Jackson thought that he just needed to told the team that it was us against the world, and the world being ownership.
Ownership
also.
included.
Ownership included in that, and the reports are a lot of the players loved them, but there were also some like Andrew Bogut that maybe weren't on the same page. Which came out a little earlier this year when Andrew Bogut had this sleeping incident, where he's injured because he slept funny, according to Mark Jackson. Then Bogut recanted that, and then Mark Jackson basically just went all out on the media.
Yep.
So, and he has this us against the world mentality that just didn't work, and that's before we even get to the on the court stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a lot of problems, and even the quotes coming after the firing today, when Mark Jackson's been on like 5 different radio shows,
of course,
he's basically said that. It didn't work, and he's almost like he's relieved that he doesn't have to coach anymore, that he doesn't have to be with Warrior staff anymore, that, it's clear that he just did not get along with the front office anymore.
But I think importantly, you brought up Bogut being a negative. The most important part, which is I think something you brought up last night on Aggie Talk, Steph Curry loved him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was fighting to keep him.
That's exactly right.
He's the franchise guy, and he was fighting to keep Mark Jackson.
And to your point earlier, I don't think that... Look, I know the Warriors haven't made the playoffs. They're historically terrible.
Yeah.
They made the playoffs the last 2 seasons. Say, how can you fire a coach that's made the playoffs the last 2 seasons?
Took them from here and brought them here.
But I think, first of all, a lot of that has to do with the players.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to get credit for some of that. Player development. The defense is a top 5 defense now. But they're 10th in points per possession with all that offensive talent. It just, that shouldn't happen.
Yep.
And all that combined with the fact that there is no relationship between the front office and the head coach, I think they definitely made the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, I just wonder what would have happened if they just held on to beat the Spurs last year. Because I'm pretty sure if they make it to the Western Conference Finals, a lot of the problems, quote unquote, aren't really big enough and glaring because winning usually cures most of those problems.
And I'm against the firing just from a coaching standpoint, that it was ownership versus coach and they wanted to pick their guy. I don't think it's necessarily a wrong move for them to fire him and bring in a different guy. I think they could get better under a different coach. So from that standpoint, I agree with Greg that it's a good move to get rid of him. I just think from the organizational standpoint, I think it's a slippery slope to fire a guy just because you really just didn't get along with him.
Yeah, and I mean...
But that's also the part that...
I think it's just a unique case.
It is.
Well,
it is, without a doubt.
Because in my opinion, 3 years in any coaching stop, let's say, in the pros, that first year you implement your system, and you basically have it run, right? If it doesn't run well, it's a new system. That second year, you get that fresh start from exhibition time on, where everyone kind of knows the system. They can do whatever it is. By that third year, the system is kind of gelling to a certain point. I feel like that hurdle is that third year, and I don't know, just the way they were playing, I just felt like
Yeah, I think
one more
also,
year would have helped.
I think
Steph Curry's development.
I think the problem, I think that you're right. 3 years is not very long, especially because the first year, they were playing with a bunch of. You see, look at their roster. The last game of the season, it was just a bunch of nobodies.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the last 2 seasons, you've obviously seen improvement, and I think that should definitely make his case. But there's just obvious glaring weaknesses with the team.
Yeah. I mean,
the coaching. There's
literally,
just no coaching on the team right now.
You take everything into consideration.
Yeah.
Firing him was probably a good thing.
Yeah, and then
it's just like, I'm just.
Your precious Lakers fired Mike Brown 5 games in.
And I was against that. Okay. And if you
It
remember,
happens.
but if you remember, I was vehemently against that.
I do remember.
And I told everyone that would listen that is stupid. They're learning a new offense right now and a defense. You need continuity, like what's going on, and lo and behold, Mike D'Antoni wasn't.
Made a mistake hiring him in the first place, but that's
that was my point.
You know what though?
He wasn't the right guy in the first place.
You don't know after 5 games. That's all I was saying.
But that transitions into the Lakers' job.
Oh.
There's a lot of real good openings in the NBA right now.
I know.
Lakers being one, Warriors being one, the Knicks. I know their roster's kind of in flux, but anytime New York is in play,
I was going to say,
New York's a good
like
job.
when Boston was looking for a coach,
Mm-hmm.
LA and New York, no matter how bad they seem, and the cupboard, quote unquote, I've heard this so many times this week, the cupboard's bare. Why would you want to go there? The cupboard's bare.
It's not the cupboards in New York.
Yeah.
But I was gonna,
it's not bare.
but I was going to say, the cupboards may look bare,
yeah.
but in a franchise like the Lakers or the Knicks, it's never going to be bare for long. And as long as you're a good enough coach and owners trust you,
and I think
they're like,
to your point, expectations for the Warriors are going to be getting to the Western Conference Finals. With the Knicks, if you get 45 wins, you're probably a 3 or a 4 seed in the East, and you have a chance to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. In which case, you would be, the greatest thing to ever happen to the city in basketball.
Yep. And I think another job that could be interesting is Utah.
Yeah.
I know they weren't good this year, but I said on our preseason podcast that I don't think Ty Corbin is that good of a coach. I think you put a good coach in Utah build around Trey Burke, Hayward, and Alec Burks, a young guy, and Derek Favors and Enes Kanter. I think Utah could be a real interesting spot for one of these big name coaches.
Is Utah still owned by the same people?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't caught up on my Utah wonders.
Yeah, I don't really, honestly, I don't care about Utah that much, but I think their coaching situation.
I had a
could be
Cracker Barrel
interesting.
once there. It was good.
I've never been to Utah, and I'm not too broken up about that. But my point is that there are really good coaching opportunities available right now. I think a couple more could become open if seeing what happens with Indiana.
So,
and,
who are your top
Oklahoma
3
City.
favorites, in your opinion, to go to Lakers?
All right, well, we'll start it this way. I think Steve Kerr is going to the Knicks.
You think that's a done deal?
I know there's a lot of speculation between him and Golden State, and there could be other spots that open up for him. But I think right now he's just waiting to see what happens. There's no rush on him becoming an NBA coach. And I think what it comes down to, I think also he's being a smart business guy in having Golden State recruit him and getting as much money out of Phil Jackson as possible to go coach the Knicks. I think Steve Kerr's going to the Knicks.
All right, Steve Kerr to the Knicks.
I think
You're first. Steve Kerr to the Knicks.
I think that's going to happen. I think Mike D'Antoni would be a terrific hire for Golden State.
I agree.
I know defensively he has his inefficiencies, but
This is the best defensive personnel he'll have.
hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Because in New York, he had a guy like Tyson Chandler who was a defensive stalwart, but no one else really knew what they were doing. Amari can't play defense. Carmelo at times can play
Lockdown
solo
defense.
defense.
J.R. Smith, really good defender.
Yeah, I mean, the personnel he's had, even in Phoenix when he was criticized, he never had a go-to defender. Rajah Bell was his guy guarding Kobe in those series. Like, I know he doesn't coach defense that well, but Golden State doesn't need that much coaching. Bogut, if he sticks around, is good defensively. Iguodala is one of the best versatile defenders in the league. He can guard a couple positions. But what he could do for that offense, just creating space, making it open.
All right, so
getting
far
some
Steve
movement.
Kerr's off the board of the Knicks.
D'Antoni to Golden State.
D'Antoni to Golden State.
I think so. And that leaves some openings for the Lakers.
Utah, LA.
I think there's one more we're forgetting about, but since I forget it, it doesn't matter. I think a guy like Stan Van Gundy could
Minnesota.
be... Oh God, Adelman.
Yeah.
That's right. That's kind of a
He
lame duck
retired.
situation.
He retired.
He
though,
did.
Right?
Don't put that in quotations. He retired.
Okay, I didn't know if it was this year.
No,
next
he
year.
wasn't fired. He retired. I think
family reasons, right? It was like personal reasons.
he's
or something?
getting old. I mean,
Okay.
he's had a long career. He didn't really want to stick around in the Minnesota winter. He was done. Minnesota's another job. I heard a lot of speculation that Flip Saunders was going to come down from his president role, move back in the coaching role.
You know what? That might be the best move for Minnesota.
It could be interesting.
It's not a very sexy job out there in the NBA world.
Laker-wise, I think Stan Van Gundy could be interesting. I think Mark Jackson could be interesting.
Byron Scott.
I think Byron Scott could be interesting.
Lionel Allen's also thrown out.
I would also throw in John Calipari. I know he stated that he doesn't want to come, but I think that could be interesting. I don't think it's necessarily a great hire, but I think that could be interesting.
That would also hurt his recruiting class, though.
Well, I'm not worried about Kentucky. They recruit regardless. But another name I heard was...
Ask Billy Gillespie about that.
It just threw me completely off the rails, was Roy Williams.
I heard
Was
that.
being courted to be the next
Your
Lakers
buddy.
coach.
Your buddy.
I hate Roy Williams.
I say no. If you're gonna go that route, you better call Coach.
You
K.
go Mike Krzyzewski,
Yeah,
which
you
he's
have
not.
to.
They tried a couple years
I know.
ago. They're not going to do it.
Kobe tried to recruit him.
Look, I don't know who the Lakers go after. I don't know who the best hire for them is because they have to figure out what they're doing next year before they figure out a coach. They need to figure out who's on their roster.
So here's my question then: the coach that they hire, this next coach, right?
Yeah.
You think they hire this next coach as the coach of the future, or do you think that this is just going to be a transitional coach that gets them through the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, even if it is a coach for the future, they have to be in win now mode by next year, not this upcoming year, but the following year. For Kobe's last year of his contract,
and free agency and everything.
they have to be a championship contender that year. So whatever they do,
realistic or unrealistically, that they're gonna.
With that free agent class,
That's
I think
true.
it's somewhat
That's true.
realistic.
That's true.
But it all depends on the salary cap. That's why this coaching thing is so interesting, because they did it at such a weird time that they are still in a transition period. They're not going to contend next year.
No.
They could do it the following year, which is why I think they should have let D'Antoni coach out his contract. And
but he wanted the extension.
Yeah, he wanted the extension. Otherwise, he was going to quit.
And I think they still could have done that, but I think from their perspective, they figured that following year they need to be in win now mode, and they weren't going to have a transitional coach. So that's why they did it now. I just thought it was an awkward time. I think they're going to go through the draft without a coach. I think they're going to look at their free agents that could return. I think they're going to re-sign Nick Young. I would hope they re-sign Jordan Hill because Jordan Hill's a really good player.
Really good.
I hope to God they keep Pau Gasol around because Pau can have input on the coach. Pau and Kobe are like brothers. And
may play for his actual brother.
And that would be really cool, but that cannot be understated that Pau and Kobe
You know what
love
name
each
I
other.
did hear that's
As a coach?
out of the blue, out of left field.
I think I know what you're talking about.
The guy from Europe.
Oh, never mind.
Kobe really likes him. Messina?
Yeah.
He's, I believe, an
Guy's from
Italian
Europe.
coach, EuroLeague coach.
Yeah, I forgot which.
He's a
Taking Mark Trestman to the next level.
But he's a EuroLeague legend, like on the level of what Mark Trestman was before he was hired by the Bears. Kobe is vouched for him. So I could see that's not necessarily a left field hire. I think they're actually throwing him into the thing. And I don't know who the Lakers are gonna pick, but they're going to have to fix the roster before they fix the coaching spot because you need to look at what you need from the coaching spot to fix the roster. You cannot do it backwards. You can't pick the coach and say, okay, we're going to build from this philosophy. You need the roster. You need guys who can do it.
Yeah.
And just one point before I throw it over to Greg, Tom Thibodeau's not leaving Chicago.
No.
That needs to stop getting moved around. Tibbs is not leaving Chicago because next year, Derrick Rose will be healthy. They're going to amnesty Boozer, and they're going to go out and get a free agent. Chicago is going to be formidable again next year. Thibodeau would be stupid to even consider leaving that situation. He's already built his plethora of players.
He doesn't get along with ownership either.
And it still works.
Yeah.
That's the difference between Mark Jackson and Tom Thibodeau. It wasn't working because they had a non-working relationship. Thibodeau doesn't like the organization. He still has a working relationship with them. And they're not friends. They still work together. Thibodeau would be stupid to leave. Chicago would be stupid to trade him. That name can no longer be thrown around in trades. It's not going to be a Doc Rivers situation. It's not going to be Thibodeau as the next Lakers coach.
Just two more thoughts on the coaching. One, Lakers coach I'm going to throw out there, Derek Fisher. I think
it's a strong possibility.
I think The only thing I don't know about is if they're in win now mode and they're gonna get a coach that's never coached before.
Get a Jason Kidd
syndrome. So there's my
Lakers
suggestion.
If they hire someone like Derek Fisher, though,
yes.
he can reach out to the other Laker family that have been coaches, like Kareem, or even Kurt Rambis, or even
Rambis is on the staff right now.
Oh, okay, retain Rambis, or even
Mark Madsen's on the staff.
Oh my god,
I love Mark Madsen.
Or even, and this is kind of a hybrid of what I was saying yesterday. Try to get Mike Dunleavy Sr. to be your assistant coach. Because, I mean,
isn't he like 85 years old?
No, he's not 85 years old. He's like in his 50s.
And he was like a huge reason why the Clippers were terrible during their terrible years. I don't know about Mike Dunleavy.
He did good for the Lakers.
I love his son, we'll put it that way.
I mean, he did good for the Lakers. I mean, that Lakers team that lost to the Bulls, shouldn't have even made it. He's lucky he had Magic, but he had to coach the rest of them.
As an assistant, sure, why not? They can throw a flyer at Mike Dunleavy.
So there you go. And then secondly, you guys know where Steve Kerr's daughter plays volleyball?
Bay Area?
Cal.
Yeah, Cal.
So
that's a huge, because he wants to be able to watch her play.
Could factor into it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think Doc Rivers has a couple of daughters who play volleyball in Florida, so he doesn't get to watch them. and he found a way to be almost at every Duke game while Austin was at Duke. Yeah. So I don't know that's a factor, but I don't know if it's a deciding factor. All right, so coaching wise, we talked at length about Mark Jackson. And I want to throw this over to hockey real quick. I'm just going to touch on hockey. We can come back to NBA.
Yeah.
No, but I want to touch on this.
Just pet it.
Yeah,
because
we'll tie the bow on the coaching.
Oh, I know you guys don't care that much about hockey. It's been a crazy postseason, but coaching-wise, we can talk at length even more about Mark Jackson, the wrongful termination, if he should have gotten fired or not. Another Bay Area coach that somehow still has a job and got backed by ownership is Todd McClellan, the head coach of the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah.
The San Jose Sharks were arguably, if not the best team in hockey this year, one of the top three. And they had a 3-0 lead over the Los Angeles Kings, a rival that they had sweeped last year in the playoffs. They had a 3-0 lead, and I believe they had outscored them 18-6 in the first 3 games. And it looked like the series was over. And then they went, not even on a slope, they went straight down, could not score a goal on Jonathan Quick. The Kings completely outplayed him. McClellan made no adjustments. It was some of the worst coaching I had seen. He had the upper hand in the series, and they completely blew it. And yet he still has a job. Mark Jackson took the Los Angeles Clippers to 7 games. Every game was just, it was a dogfight.
Yeah, other than game 2.
Other than the absolute blowout. Mark Jackson did a so much better job at coaching his team in the playoffs than Todd McClellan did. McClellan has had championship expectations the last 3 years. The Sharks have yet to play a Stanley Cup final game. Not even gotten to the Stanley Cup final when they had final expectations. And yet he still has a job. If we're talking about which coach should have been fired or should not have been fired, I'm tired of talking about Mark Jackson. Todd McClellan needs to be gone. Needs to be gone.
There are hundreds and thousands and millions of Sharks fans that probably agree with you.
The Sharks are so talented. They are way too talented to have not played in the Stanley Cup Finals. And McClellan has to be he has to go. He has to go, and they need to fix this because I'm tired of rooting for the Sharks and getting my heart broken because McClellan can't take them to the promised land. It's pissing me off.
I was going to say, the Ducks have won 2.
Yeah.
The Kings finally won 1.
It's annoying. It's
the
really
Tampa Bay Lightning have 1.
Yeah. But the second part of my hockey thing, and then we'll go to these. I'm wearing a Rangers shirt.
They are playing right now.
Showed you earlier. Henrik Lundqvist. My family's huge Rangers fan in the Northeast. My cousin's name is Daniel Ranger Steimel because he was born in '94, and that was the year they won the Stanley Cup. Wow. My family's big-time Rangers fans. A few years ago, I kind of adopted the Rangers and started following them, and Henrik Lundqvist and Ryan Callahan were 2 of my favorite players, Captain Callie. And he was traded this year to Tampa Bay for Martin St. Louis, another guy who I really enjoy. He won the Stanley Cup with Tampa Bay. And Martin St. Louis is now a Ranger. I miss watching Captain Callie play for the Rangers. He was our captain, and it's just a weird kind of feeling rooting for the Rangers without him being there. But if you guys know anything about hockey, you need a good goaltender to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
and Henrik Lundqvist is one of the best goaltenders I've ever seen in my
the world.
life. And he just happens to look like the king of Sweden. When he takes his helmet off, he's got long flowing hair and he flicks it. And
during the Winter Olympics, he is the king of Sweden.
He basically is. When you look at him, he doesn't look like a hockey player. He looks just like a professional athlete. But he's amazing. And this series that they're playing against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then if you know anything about hockey, you know the name Sidney Crosby. And he's the best player in the Penguins. And then Evgeny Malkin, another guy, if you watched Olympic
Breaking
hockey.
stuff over there. What's going on?
I'm just listening to Sean for hockey.
He plays for Russia. He's arguably the third best player in hockey, with Ovechkin being the other one. This is a juggernaut that the Rangers are going up against, and this is the point of this rant. The New York Rangers played 6 games in 9 nights. They played 2 back-to-backs of playoff hockey.
Wow.
Hockey in its own right is a grueling sport.
Yeah.
Playoff hockey
is like 10 times more than that.
Playoff hockey is just brutal. I mean, it is brutal. It's like getting hit by a train playing a full hockey game, and they did it 2 back-to-back nights, 6 games in 9 nights, and somehow they're still standing. Somehow they're still going.
Wow.
They're probably going to lose the series to the Pens, but that's just a shame because the Rangers have real talent on their team. Henrik Lundqvist is playing really well. They're going up against a really potent offense, and they had to play 6 games in 9 nights. I'm not blaming the Rangers' loss. Their inevitable loss to the Pens on that, but, I mean, to play 6 playoff hockey games in 9 nights, I mean, why'd you want to play college hockey? Isn't it obvious for the girls? Well, I wanted to win a national championship, and that pansy over there cheap shots me, takes the ring right off my finger. How would you feel? How would you feel playing 6 games in 9 nights? Playoff hockey. Playoff hockey.
Oh, man.
How would you feel?
Playoff hockey.
It's a great movie.
That's beer time.
It's a terrific movie. If you're not watching playoff hockey, do it.
Miracle.
Just watch one
He's even
game.
growing a playoff beard.
I did. Okay, I told these guys I was clean shaven the day the NBA playoffs started. I gave the hockey guys a day head start. They started a day early, and I'm growing the playoff beard. I'm actually disappointed in this. I thought it would grow in much fuller, but yes, I have the playoff beard. If you're not into playoff hockey, if you're not into hockey, just sit down and watch one playoff hockey game. I would recommend.
I'm into playoff hockey.
I would recommend the Blackhawks Wild series. That's been pretty fun to watch. But any of them are really
Well, see,
good.
you know why I like playoff hockey over regular season hockey is the overtime just keep going until someone wins. There's no ties.
I've tweeted this numerous times. The only thing.
Well, I guess there's no.
The only thing better than playoff hockey, overtime playoff hockey. Overtime playoff hockey is the best thing in the world, other than college hockey. I wanted to win a national championship. That pansy with it cheap shots me.
All right, well,
it's a great fucking movie. That's it on hockey. All of you need to become hockey
Don't watch
fans.
playoff hockey. Watch
Miracle.
We're gonna end this segment on a little NFL draft.
NFL draft.
And I'm gonna pull up the NFL draft board.
Can you just pull up a picture of Teddy Bridgewater? I want to see Greg's reaction. I want to see if he gets really excited here.
What a guy!
Hey, okay, please explain to me the love for Teddy Bridgewater.
All right.
You think he's gonna be the best quarterback in this draft?
I do. Let's flash back to a year from now.
Flashback from a year from now.
I'm confused.
Days of Future Past.
What are we?
Is Teddy Bridgewater going to be in that? Is he a mutant? Is that what you're going to tell me? He's a mutant, isn't he?
Hey, J-Law's in
He's Magneto's son.
Love J-Law. But anyways, go back to Teddy Bridgewater.
That was terrific.
That man, a year ago today.
Yeah.
Almost consensus number. Not consensus, but he was definitely in the conversation. It was him and Jadeveon Clowney who was going to be the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I agreed. There was a lot of talk back then.
1 year later,
after people had seen him play football,
most draft experts believe that he'll go either late first or early second round, which I think is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay.
I know I don't think he did anything during the year to discount that he's not the best quarterback prospect in the entire league. He's, even coming after the season, people had him as a top 5 pick and maybe the best quarterback on the board. The only reason he's dropping so far is because he had a bad pro day, in which he didn't wear gloves, which he should have.
Yeah.
And
he acknowledged that too.
It was 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1 day that you're going to discount all the tape. 1 day where he has a bad pro day, where he's throwing to receivers who aren't wearing pads, who aren't being covered by cornerbacks. who's, it's in a weird environment. You just got a bunch of scouts looking at you. You're just trying to test his, you're testing his physical attributes, which Teddy Bridgewater, probably not the right guy to test. He's not a physical specimen like Blake Bortles. He doesn't excite you like Johnny Manziel does play-making-wise. But... Are you glad I said play-making-wise?
I actually had something in my throat.
Okay, but Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the best player, maybe the best player in this draft, if not for Jadeveon Clowney. He makes every single throw in the book. He can't throw the ball 80 yards from his knees, but he can. Have anybody seen his game-winning touchdown pass against Cincinnati? Saw his game against Florida in the Sugar Bowl last year?
Does it concern you that the majority of his games in his career have come in the Big East?
No, because why is Blake Bortles one of the highest-rated prospects in the NFL?
You don't hear either one of us making a case for Blake Bortles.
I was going to say, I was going to make a case for him anyway.
It doesn't bother me either. That's the point. Okay. There's plenty of quarterbacks that have come from bad schools.
Here's my argument against
conferences.
We did a podcast, me and you, a few months ago.
Yes.
And you were saying that you've been true to the Teddy Bridgewater fame for as long as I've known. I don't think this crop of quarterbacks is that good. I don't think any quarterback in this draft is that great.
Franchise.
It's not Griffin or Luck, but it's decent.
And I brought up that comparison. They're not Griffin, they're not Luck. I don't even think they're Tannehill level. I think Tannehill's pretty good.
I think that some of these guys might evolve into a franchise quarterback, maybe.
I don't think any of them are franchise quarterbacks.
But they're not coming out right now.
Really complicated. He's really good at solving protections. He can solve every throw. He can anticipate really well. He has all those. He's a football player, is what I'm trying to say. And he's shown over he played on one foot in the game against Rutgers a few years ago.
Oh, Rutgers. Rutgers. The State University of New Jersey. It's a Rutgers University.
Yeah, that one.
Sorry.
He's as tough as they come. Anybody see the hit that he took against Florida in the Sugar Bowl?
That was impressive.
That was impressive.
He has a scar still, and he still played maybe the best game, probably the best game of his life. And I don't know why he's slipping down draft boards. That's all I have to say. That's just my main rant. Okay, we don't have to talk draft for that long.
There are concerns about him, though. I mean, it stemmed from the pro day, and all those things that he didn't wear a glove. Okay, well, what happens when he doesn't wear a glove? He, probably doesn't do that well. You also said that he's not as exciting as Manziel, and he doesn't have the build as Blake Bortles. That's also why he's falling, because people are looking at those things. That Bortles has the size, and
you look at the tape. It hasn't mattered, though.
I'm arguing with you on that point. That's just stemming from the pro day. That's all the NFL draft is buzz.
Yes.
It's NFL draft buzz. And when they ultimately make the pick, they factor in the buzz. But there are other things that go into it. I don't suspect for any of the quarterbacks to slip that far. And McShay and Kuiper and Daniel Jeremiah and all the other guys that are making mock drafts can tell you whatever they want. This is a quarterback-driven league. And if you don't have a quarterback, things are going to go wrong.
I feel like any mock draft that comes out, you shouldn't pay attention to, because from the time... Well, no,
not completely disregard.
But from the time the college season ends until the actual draft happens...
There are about 50 mock drafts.
There's so many mock drafts that happen.
No, exactly. And when you start getting closer to the NFL draft like we are, which, by the way, we didn't preface this, the NFL draft is tomorrow at Radio City Music Hall in New York. Which is wreaking havoc on New York traffic. My sister lives in Manhattan. She says it gets just nuts when the NFL draft is there. She still hasn't seen anyone, by the way. I told her to walk by and see if you see anyone. She's like, no, I don't see anyone. I don't think she knows any of these players because they're not really that superstar
she didn't
buzz or
recognize
whatever.
Khalil Mack?
No, she didn't recognize the linebacker from Buffalo. No, I don't think she did. It's tomorrow, and I think once you get close to the NFL draft, I think some of the mock drafts you can start actually looking at, because I know McShay definitely bases it on just of what he's hearing from his sources from each team. But there's no fully trusting a mock draft. It's just that mostly mock drafts started as just a fun thing for people to throw out there. Like, oh, this is who I think they're going to pick. And I think it's much more prevalent with the NBA draft, the mock draft. It's much more fun for those mock drafts to come out. Where NFL's, there's 7 rounds. I mean, there's so many places where people can get picked, so mock drafts are so tough. But I think once you get closer, you can start, figuring out who's going to go where. But I think quarterbacks aren't going to slip as far as people are contemplating in their mock drafts currently. I think we're going to see a couple of them in the first round. Whether they should be picked there or not, it's a quarterback league. and if you don't have a quarterback,
This is true.
you're gonna have problems. So
So
I think there's gonna be a couple.
So
quarterbacks
saying
taken.
that, if you're Houston, do you take a quarterback, number one?
They're almost 100% not going to take a quarterback.
Well,
They're
okay,
going to take either Clowney or Khalil Mack, I think.
But not knowing that, if you were Houston,
Like if you're
would
Houston,
you take
would you
right.
take a quarterback,
quarterback
knowing
number
that
I
you
would
get the
think
quarterback
Long,
lead?
I would probably trade it.
I would
That's
too.
what
I would
yeah.
trade that, and when we did that
Yes.
podcast, I said if they're
Now-
not going to take a quarterback, they need to trade out of the spot.
Now here's the other question though.
Yeah.
You trade out of that spot. How far can you go
Or, yeah.
without losing out on someone like?
Or they can, listen, I love Bridgewater,
Mhm.
but they could pick Clowney because he's a once-in-a-generation
that's-
talent.
He
And
is.
the
Him and
second-
Watt would just destroy
and then in the
offense.
second round,
And then find a quarterback in the second round.
Drew Brees second round.
Because I believe one of the guys, Bortles, Manziel, or Bridgewater, will
Yes.
probably fall to the second round.
Could happen.
And Houston will have the first pick of the second round. Like they're not going to have to wait that long.
And
to
any
try
of
to get
those
a
three
quarterback.
quarterbacks in the second round draft pick.
Yeah.
Totally good for the team because that contract won't be so
Yeah.
outlandish.
And the two differences, the money. You don't have to pay him the number one money, but Clowney's not going to be around in the second round, and there's no chance of Clowney being around in the second round. There is a chance of one of those guys being there, so you kind of play the probabilities. We're going to take the sure thing now, hope we get one of those guys in the second round, and if not, they trade down. They try and trade out of the pick, and you mentioned how low do they go. Depends on who they really want. Do they want Clowney? Do they want Mack? Do they want to go after a guy like Sammy Watkins or an offensive lineman or someone like that? Depends on how far you want to play your probabilities, because I believe if they go out of the bottom or the top four, they're not getting Clowney and they're not getting Mack, because I think both of those guys will be off the board. So, I mean, I said a long time ago that they should trade out of the pick if they're not going to get a quarterback, but I think at this point you have to take Clowney.
Yeah.
I said that then. I
No,
think
I
they
agree.
have to take Clowney.
I said before when we did the podcast,
Mm.
I wanted Bridgewater number one.
Yeah.
But now that I see where the draft, I would either. They're not going to trade it. If you're the number one pick, you have to take Clowney.
You got
You
to
have to take
Clowney.
Clowney. He's what you call a can't miss prospect.
Yeah.
You cannot miss
And-
He's
him.
an Andrew Luck
and-
of defensive.
And
players.
basically, if you draft him, you know exactly where you're going to put him
Hmm?
on the other side of J.J. Watt, and then be like, all right, you two
Yeah.
play with each other for 10, 15 years, hopefully.
But we'll play this out. If he doesn't go
That's
to
a long
Houston,
time, DK.
the other places
Hopefully.
that he could go, put him in St. Louis possibly. It probably won't happen. But they have
They need
Robert
offensive-
Quinn and Chris
Yes.
Long.
They need
Put
offensive
Clowney in
help.
that group. That's a Seahawks
They
group.
need more offensive.
I know.
help.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but just think about this.
Okay.
If he goes to Jacksonville, it's
Oh.
him and Jason Babin. That's pretty good. The other team I heard was Buffalo. Him, Mario
Wow.
Williams. I believe they still have Kyle Williams in the middle. I think Aaron Campman's still there. Marcel Darius, who was arrested in Alabama the other day for drug possession. I believe he was caught with a bong in his car.
Yep.
Marcel Darius.
Good job.
University of Alabama, roll tide. Roll
Uh,
tide.
Roll Tide.
Marcel
Roll tide,
Darius,
Yeah. But
you know there's
just-
blunts, right? Like,
oh my god.
Okay,
It's
we're
a
saying
cigar.
it's a DK.
no, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
That-
Pretend like you're smoking a cigar.
That was another place I heard.
Be
Tide
smarter
going.
than that.
Here was my dream scenario when I knew how bad they were in the regular season, and you just knew that they weren't going to make the playoffs. I thought the Falcons were going to make a real run at getting that number one pick,
Yeah.
just record wise. Put Clowney on the Falcons.
They don't need a quarterback.
No, put Clowney on the Falcons. Oh my.
Matt Ryan should have had a injury.
Yeah.
How fun would that have
The
been?
David Robinson injury.
Because the Falcons had no chance of the playoffs this year, and they still won a few games. If they would have actually
Right, they were trying.
full
I know.
tank zone,
Because, I mean, if you're number 6,
Jeez.
you might miss out on a lot of people
Exactly.
at 6.
They're the
like
top
what's going to happen to
four.
the Lakers this year?
Khalil
They're going to be
Mack,
6
Greg
and miss out.
Robinson.
No.
Jadavion.
You know what? NBA
Sammy
is rigged.
Watkins.
They
It
want
is.
us to have top 3 pick.
It is. But I think if Clowney doesn't go number one, there are still some
By the way,
interesting...
just for
opportunities.
our listeners,
Yeah.
you will convince me that the NBA is indeed rigged if the Lakers finish with top 3 pick in
Peace
the
out.
draft.
No, the only way it's rigged is if they're number one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, no.
If it's
okay.
top 3, then that's just the
Luck of
lottery
the-
working.
okay.
Yeah.
But if they get number 1,
pick, that's rigged.
it's totally rigged. Because Jabari Parker is definitely coming to LA.
And
at that
believe
point.
you me, the Lakers are getting the number one pick. And Jabari Parker's going to be, oh my god, Jabari Parker's going to be a Laker. And then Coach K is going to come coach the Lakers. That's what's going to happen. They're going to draft Jabari. Jabari's gonna
just
be
for a
like,
second,
Coach K.
just for a second, we're gonna believe this for a second.
Yeah.
All right.
It's gonna work.
Makes me feel better.
Duke fans.
All right, hey, shut up. Duke fans are the best people on earth.
And then we're going to bring Johnny Dawkins away from the Bay Area and bring him back to Duke to coach.
Jeff Capel's going to come help us out. We're gonna sign Blake Griffin because that was Blake Griffin's
Johnny Dawkins and
that was
Capel
Blake
just
Griffin's
have
college
glowing
coach.
resumes.
Johnny Dawkins could get us Brook Lopez because he's a Stanford guy. We're building the Lakers from the bottom up. Anyway, NFL draft. You would take Clowney number 1. I would take Clowney number 1. You would take Clowney number 1.
If you're not going to trade it, take Clowney number 1 because there's not
first quarterback off the board. Who do you think it is?
Wow.
Doesn't matter.
First
where.
quarterback off the
Doesn't
board.
matter where. Who do you think it's going to be? I'll give you mine. I think it's Johnny Manziel.
You think Manziel's going to be the first quarterback off the
Whether it's
board?
right or wrong, whether it's the right situation, I think Manziel is the first
I
quarterback.
think it's either Manziel or Bortles,
Or Bortles.
and I think it's going to be Manziel too.
Manziel.
I agree.
And I think it's to Cleveland. I think Cleveland drafts quarterback, and I think they take Johnny Manziel. I don't know if that's the right move. I doubt it. It's Cleveland. Cleveland hard labor makes the right move. But I think they go after quarterback, and I think it's Johnny Manziel. And I think if Clowney is the best player in the draft, you can talk me into Khalil Mack being the second best player. But 2 years ago, when I saw...
You saw Khalil Mack.
No, 2 years ago, I believe when I saw, I think it was Georgia play Clemson, you could have talked me into Sammy Watkins being an all-pro receiver in the NFL. I think Sammy Watkins has all of the tools.
He's going in the top 5.
I know he is, but he has all the tools to be just a terrific NFL
as
receiver.
much as I don't think he's the best quarterback in the draft, I'm going to have to agree with you.
Johnny
Manziel is probably the first quarterback.
Just because of the hype, I think people are going to be like, oh, we need a quarterback.
It's going to be like how Tebow went in the first round for some reason, like for no reason at all.
Tebow's a very special.
Tim Tebow won a playoff game. We're not talking about Tim Tebow.
Poor Pittsburgh.
I heard the what is
comparison?
Why did I just blank on comparison? Oh my god, I blanked on comparison. I heard the comparison today between Johnny Manziel and Michael Vick. Same body size. They play a little similar.
They're both 6 feet.
Yeah, they're both
cross-racial comparison.
I believe Bill Simmons would approve of that one. But
that actually
taken me aback.
Cross and cross-racial.
I hadn't thought of that, but I see a lot of Michael Vick.
Because Michael Vick was very exciting as a freshman. He led Virginia Tech to that national championship game.
Yep.
Almost single-handedly, upset Florida State. He had fit any semblance of another superstar on that team.
Michael Vick's probably better than Johnny Manziel.
I would agree. Yeah. I think Michael Vick was a transcendent.
Michael Vick
talent.
was as much of his pocket passing as kind of you need to improve this and that. Yeah. When he stood in the pocket and had time back at Virginia Tech days, he was just oh my gosh, his slinging the ball 60, 70 yards in the air. Like
I know this is irrational, but like
I love when Sean starts with I know this is irrational. All right, sorry.
Like growing up in my generation, for as long as I can remember, I had video games.
Wait, so you're talking about your generation?
We're in the same generation.
Yeah.
DK is from the 50s, but whatever.
I know you're talking about.
My point was, for as long as I can remember, I was always playing some sort of video game, and I don't necessarily judge greatest players I've ever seen, but if I were to ever make a list of the greatest athletes I've ever seen, something that would factor into it was how good were they when I played with them on video games? And any list I start with that. Madden 04, Michael Vick is easily one of the 3 greatest video game characters I've ever played as.
Yeah.
He was unstoppable.
When I played as him in Dogfighting 2004.
Oh, wow.
He didn't start dogfighting.
Wow.
Maybe it was an underground dogfighting game.
Wow.
I didn't get that edition. I only got the...
You only got 02?
I got the ESPN authentic dogfighting issue.
As much as that's making fun of Michael Vick,
terrible.
That could totally be like, why'd you buy a dogfighting video game, Greg?
Why are you supporting?
Did you want to simulate dogfighting in a video game arena?
A horrible person. No, but just my point was that I know Michael Vick's better than Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
But I that was the first time I heard the comparison. I was like, oh, okay, that actually kind of makes sense. And if his career is like Johnny Manziel, I think he could be the best quarterback of this draft. Because any way you look at Michael Vick's career,
his career like Michael Vick.
His career like Michael Vick. Yeah. I think
minus going to jail.
Minus the jail years and minus.
Hey, he already took care of that in college with the whole autograph signing thing. So he got that out of the way.
People have somehow forgotten about that for a little while. But I think if Manziel looks anything like what Michael Vick's career has looked like,
yes.
I think I think he could be pretty solid. I mean, I think people would be pretty happy with that.
Well,
fellas,
I think
there's a disturbance in the force.
I'm pretty sure Adobe Audition has stopped working.
Are we gonna be able to save it?
I don't know.
Well, we do have the video.
But we have the video.
Even if we don't have the audio, we have the video. So we're almost done anyway. We're just finishing up the NFL draft. Do we?
Whatever. I can find it. I found it last time.
Alrighty.
No worries. Do you have anything else in the NFL draft other than your love for Teddy Bridgewater?
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the best player in the draft. I'm just going to stick to my gun. Better than Clowney. He's going to be the best player in the draft.
Wow. Did you just say the best player in the draft?
Yeah.
Who do the Niners take?
I haven't done my draft research, but they're going to probably go after. I think they're going to trade up and get a receiver.
Who do you want them to take?
Who I want them to take? I want them to take I like Odell Beckham Jr. who played at LSU.
Yeah.
When he he has stickum on his glove.
He does.
He's so good.
And he's a good route runner. He catches touchdown passes.
You know what's dirty is I was going to say that the receiver from LSU probably would be a very good fit.
Yeah. So that's who you would want the Niners to get?
Yeah.
Okay. As a Giants fan, this is how I look at every draft. I see where the Giants are picking, and I really don't care who anyone else ends up with. I care who goes to the Giants. And the Giants' most glaring weakness last year was protecting the quarterback.
Yeah.
They had nothing on the offensive line.
Luckily for you guys, there's a whole lot of good offensive linemen in this draft.
There is, but the last 3 or 4 mock drafts I've seen has them going after a tight end, or I saw today that they're going to take Aaron Donald from Pittsburgh. I really hope that the Giants come to their senses and say, look, we need to stockpile offensive linemen. And the one guy that I heard in the first mock draft I saw was Taylor Lewan from Michigan, who I think could be a really, really good offensive tackle. And if not him, DK, you and I are big Notre Dame fans.
Yeah.
Zach Martin, the offensive tackle from Notre Dame.
He'd be really good in the NFC East.
Anytime you can get a Notre Dame offensive lineman, they have been proven to be really good pros. I would love for Zach Martin to be a Giant, but the Giants need offensive line help, and I really hope to God Jerry Reese doesn't shit his pants and pick a defensive player, because we don't need a defensive player. We need offensive line help, and if you want, get a tight end. And the other name that could really work out for them is Odell Beckham Jr., because we need a third receiver. We have Ruben Randall, his old college teammate from LSU, who has personally vouched for him to Jerry Reese. Could be a pretty good fit. It would be a bit of a reach taking him at 12, but I think Odell Beckham Jr. could be a really good Giant. But I really hope the Giants get an offensive lineman. That's what I'm going to be watching for in the draft as a Giants fan, either Lewan or Zach Martin from Notre Dame. I hope they don't do anything stupid. And I will end that by saying, when they drafted Jason Pierre-Paul, I looked at my dad and said, shit, we drafted another defensive lineman. So I have known to been wrong in my judging of Jerry Reese's draft picks. So I won't judge it until I see it, but I really hope he takes an offensive lineman. JPP, I fucking love you, man. And now that Justin Tuck and Osi Manure are both left, you're my favorite defensive Giant.
That's sweet.
It is.
JPP listens to the pod, I'm pretty sure.
He does. He's a very worldly man.
Oh yeah, he is.
All right. Do you want to talk any baseball since your Giants are playing so well, or no?
First of all, you want to admit that you were wrong.
On what?
That they were going to be 4th in the division.
Oh, they still could be.
All right.
They still could be.
I actually did want to
The Rockies have been pretty good.
This is true.
Yeah.
They have been pretty good. But
me and you were going to save that for a podcast we do by ourselves.
One baseball thing. I want to give DK credit. He got laughed at this during the baseball preseason show, and now I'm going to jump on the DK bandwagon.
For what?
I am in on the Marlins this year. He said they're going to finish 3rd in the division. They're 19-15 right now.
Oh my God, you're jumping on
that
bandwagon.
I'm in on the Marlins bandwagon.
Yeah, I got someone on the bandwagon.
The offense looks a lot. I think their offense could be average this year. They don't play in a good division, and you look at their pitching. Jose Fernandez, Nate Eovaldi is had off to a really good start. Henderson Alvarez is off to a good start. They have a bunch of other young pitchers on the way in the rotation. I'm on the Marlins bandwagon. Let's do it. Let's go, DK.
Wow. All right, we're on the bandwagon.
Alrighty.
Wow.
Hop on, Sean. There's plenty of room.
Never.
Me and DK are
never
cuddling on the bandwagon right now.
Not cuddling. We're not cuddling.
Not at all. No.
right.
You guys can enjoy that bandwagon. I don't want any room on that.
All right.
Everyone out there in YouTube
We're
land,
gonna ride off into the sunset.
if you're gonna get
You know.
anything to record your voice, Adobe Audition can, suck it.
Oh wow.
It's a good note.
Wow.
Well, I would just
I refrained. I could have,
Yeah.
You could have said fuck.
yeah,
Yeah.
but in a worse context.
I don't use that word. I would just like to say that the Yankees are actually playing pretty well in spite of Derek Jeter.
Yes.
I love Jeter, but man, if he doesn't pick it up with the bat, we're gonna have some problems coming this year. Because his fielding hasn't been terrible so far. He's actually made some pretty good plays, but if he's hitting 250, that's pretty bad.
No power.
And the worst part is he's come up in some clutch situations, like the series in Anaheim. He had a bases loaded 1-out situation where he was up and he grounded into a double play. If he continues that stuff,
Derek Jeter's just not that good, is he?
Okay, never say that to me again. But I think the fact that Brendan Ryan is healthy now, we can platoon him and get him some rest and work on his bat. But despite of that, the Yankees are still playing really well. And our talk of Rookie of the Year in our preseason podcast, the three of us that we did, it is going to be a battle between Jose Abreu and Money Hero Tanaka.
Yeah.
Because both of them have been
Killing it.
I mean, Abreu's in the MVP discussion, and Tanaka is in the Cy Young discussion. Like,
Yep.
they're going to go down to the wire for AL Rookie of the Year. Abreu has been out of his mind.
And
You can suck it. The White Sox have been really good.
Just like I
get
said,
the White Sox low.
just like I said in our podcast,
Go Marlins. We're in, DJ.
I'm worried about my Dodgers, and the Giants are just.
Whew. How about them Giants?
They're the Giants.
We all got Colorado right, though.
Yeah.
I kind of said Colorado
Third?
because I went.
It's Colorado fourth. Sorry.
I went first in the NL East.
We had the Diamondbacks.
Or
right?
NL West.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we all knew Arizona was going to suck. But I thought I was going to surprise you with picking Colorado second. You guys were all kind of like on board with it, and we were all right. And my boy, future Yankee, Troy Tulowitzki, hitting, I believe he's hitting over 400
You've
right now.
been saying it from the beginning, man.
He's gonna look great in pinstripes next year in the Bronx. I cannot wait. I did actually have a discussion with my cousin who was at the Dodgers game today in Nationals Park. He was telling me that Jeff Samardzija and Max Scherzer are both free agents next year, and he really believes that both of them are going to be Yankees. Because they'll have the money to spend next year, and they really need pitching help.
Right.
Sure, they could shell out a ton of money to Scherzer, and Samardzija's going to get paid like a number 3 starter. That's what we need him as. I'd be happy.
I love Samardzija as
we
well
both
as you do, but
Samardzija, Jeff Samardzija.
But I was gonna say, and I know that he can play under the lights because he played football in Notre Dame and everything. But Yankee Stadium and the AL East, that's a whole different animal.
It's a whole other animal. But I would love to see Samardzija do it. I would love to see him do it. And Scherzer's proven he can pitch anywhere with AL Cy Young. But that's next year. The Yankees are going to look different next year. It's going to be a different era. But this year, I think they're kind of proving that they'll be around come October. But it's also proving that the American League East. I mean,
very good.
1 through 5, they're pretty close, and even Toronto. Jose Reyes is back now. Shut up. We're not talking about Melky Cabrera again.
on fire.
He cheated for half a year. It's the only reason the Giants even made the playoffs.
Could have done it with the Yankees.
He didn't though.
You don't know.
Because he didn't. He didn't hit like that for the Yankees.
Maybe they just didn't work for him.
Whatever.
He wasn't injecting them in the right spots.
A-Rod would have given them to him, so they would have had to have worked. Because whatever A-Rod was taking, it was working. So whatever. We're not talking Melky Cabrera. Anyway, we're going to do a podcast where we both say who was wrong and who was right on our preview show. But
I wish our YouTube viewers could look at the screen right now because I totally have the audio.
You just can't.
I have everything up.
The first one.
I have everything up, but I can't get the audio for the first half because it's not loading. But it tells me exactly how much we've recorded.
It's there. It's just not there.
It's almost like I'm the most hungriest man in the world, and there's food in front of me, but it's like in a glass case. Hey.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
You're a guest.
Sorry,
I can be on board with Sean and just not invite you back.
I'm running that train.
I'm trapped in a glass case of
Third
emotion.
consecutive time I've been here, you're all fired.
No, we actually like having Greg here. It's fun.
All right, so I'm gonna just give up on this.
Well, we're done anyway.
We're done.
We've hit all the spots.
Go Marlins, right, DK?
Go Marlins.
Go Rich Waltz.
Rich Waltz.
He actually does, does a really good job for the Marlins.
He's good.
I listen to him a lot. He does really well.
I like Rich.
Um,
Friend of the program. So
yeah, so we talked playoffs at length, talked coaching. We all have our opinions about coaching. It's gonna be a very interesting offseason coaching wise. We'll say that because there could be a couple more openings. We hit the NFL draft. Greg's love for Teddy Bridgewater is undenying, and we all think Clowney's going to be really good, and hopefully go to Texans and hit on baseball.
Yeah,
just hit on it. We'll do some more baseball come later on because there's going to be a time during summer when baseball is the only thing going on. So we'll save a lot of our baseball talk for then.
It'll just be me and Sean showing up for 3 days in a row because we're bored.
Put him out of the
3 days in a row. It's Monday, folks. It's Wednesday. It's Friday. Hey, what's going on?
But believe you me, we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about during the summer. So, so that's it. I'm done talking. So DK, you can lead us out. But thank you again for listening, guys.
All right. Well,
DK's about to go flip over a bunch of chairs
all hail King Henrik. That's all I have to say.
I was gonna say.
I'm gonna say, guys, as soon as the video's done, so he doesn't shoot me.
I don't know whether or not we're gonna be back on Monday or Wednesday, but either way, we'll let you know on the Facebook page.
Yeah, just follow us on stuff.
And it's just gonna be YouTube today or this week. But as me and Sean have learned, every week is an adventure.
Oh, it's
because it started with my phone sitting up here, and now we have the iPad sitting here. And we have a third member pretty much like every time now.
He's not a third member, he's a guest.
Sorry.
He's not a member of the show.
The Greg. We're bringing in the Gregs.
It's in the basement with Sean and the Heckler, not in the basement with Sean and the Heckler and our third member.
That's true.
It's guest appearances.
So, once again, for our guest of the week, Greg Wong, I am David D.K. Kim, and for my partner in crime over there, Sean Steimel, we will see you when we see you sometime next week.